Hello, everybody. We're going to delay for just a few minutes until we can get our IT all up and running. Okay.
So how's your summer going? Other than work, come on, get away from that. Other than work.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, I think summer, because I don't have kids or anything, about the same as the rest of the year. It's different.
Right.
Just warmer.
So you got your 8 to 5 mentality, and so it's with that at the,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. But then I have some vacations planned, so,
Oh, cool.
you know, I try and move stuff right now.
I'm astonished at, when I started working with your dad, long, I think I was getting a double wide for, I think the last one I got from a used one was 60.
Yeah.
I know.
More now.
Oh, no, that's what I'm saying. I'm just overwhelmed.
Well, people call and they're like, oh, remember I got a double wide for 30,000. It's like, I wish I could get a line of people, you know, so. But yeah, but otherwise, good. You know, hot summer.
Testing, testing.
I know they're saying it, they went this week.
Yeah, it was raining, like, in the mountains.
I was up at Eagles Nest, I bet they said it rained. Last time I was up there, it was nice. God, the clouds. When you go up there, it's like 70.
All right. Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Village of Los Ranchos de Albuquerque's Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for July 14th, 2026. We'll begin with roll call. So Commissioner Bayless.
Present.
Commissioner Chivington.
Present.
Thank you, it's working. Commissioner Duran.
Present.
Commissioner Haywood.
Yeah.
Commissioner Martinez.
Here.
Commissioner Tagliapetra as excused for the evening, and myself, Commissioner Homan, I am present. So let the record show that we have a quorum present for the meeting. And I'm looking for an approval of the agenda, or if needed, any kind of adjustment to that agenda.
I make a motion for approval of the agenda.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Martinez and seconded by Commissioner Bayless. Are there any comments before we vote? Okay, this is a roll call vote. Commissioner Bayless.
Aye.
Commissioner Chivington.
Aye.
Commissioner Duran.
Aye.
Commissioner Haywood.
Yes.
Commissioner Martinez.
Yes.
And Commissioner Homan, aye. For those of you that haven't outguessed this, Commissioner Duran is joining us remotely today. All right, let's see. We're on to the public comment period. I do have a few folks that have signed up. Residents may address the Planning and Zoning Commission to address issues, problems, or successes on topics that do not appear elsewhere on the agenda. Audience members will be given an opportunity to comment on agenda items as they come up, and speakers must register with the staff prior to the beginning of the meeting. I have a list of those individuals that have signed up, and everybody will be given 3 minutes on the clock. Jordine, you're first up. If you will give us your name and address, please.
Gordine McKenzie, 7315 Guadalupe Trail Northwest. In order to go forward, we need to learn about our past. And in the Los Ranchos Historical Society, we have several people who are uncovering some of the history of the area. And also, we have participated with Historic Albuquerque, the Historical Society of New Mexico, and the East Mountain Historical Society to put together the free Route 66 Speakers Series. And it's celebrating the centennial of Route 66. And the closest to us is the Raymond Sanchez Community Center. So every fourth Saturday from 11 a.m. to 12:30, there are free talks. And we have 14 or 15 speakers that rotate to 12 different locations. But on the 25th, we have Abraham Santalinas, and his talk is going to be Why Turn Left at Albuquerque? Albuquerque, Route 66, and the many roads that came before it. David Montoya and myself have focused our talk specifically on Los Ranchos and the history of Los Ranchos. David will be speaking at the Raymond Sanchez Community Center in October, and I'll be on the 25th doing a talk at the Wheels Museum. And if you want more information, you can go to the Los Ranchos historicalsociety.org and get a list of the speakers and the talks, or you can also go to Route66speakers.org. And I hope you'll come and ask questions and learn our very interesting history that at many times is contentious when we wouldn't expect, but people always end up coming together. Thank you.
Thank you. David Newman.
I'm sorry, I wanted to comment on one of the agenda items.
Okay. You did. So when I come up with your agenda item, I'll ask if there's anybody else for that item, right?
Okay, sorry, thank you.
No problem. Art Valescas?
Yes. You must have did the same thing. Oh, we signed the wrong form.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Teresa Ryle.
Teresa Rael, 1005 El Alhambra. I'm glad everybody is here. So when you see these signs around the village, it's about National Night Out, which is a community event that we're doing at the barn here at Hartnett Park. And it's to bring residents together with law enforcement and your government leadership for safety, really. It's to create safety amongst each other. So there will be free hot dogs, water, there'll be other items for purchase if you'd like. And everybody is welcome. Your kids, your grandkids, your neighbors, your friends. So come on out. And then also on July 30th, 6 p.m. here, we're having a neighborhood crime watch meeting. So if anybody is interested in crime and safety in the neighborhood, you're welcome to come to that. And like we have an ongoing issue with some loose dogs on the ditch bank that we're working with animal control with. And it even, we talk about those sort of things in the meeting. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that didn't have the opportunity to sign up for this public comment period? All right. Darnell, is there anyone online wishing to speak on public comment? No. All right. Going on, we will address our first items into the public comment, or into the public hearings. But first, I will ask Mr. Chappell if he will please swear in anybody that's going to give comment or testimony on any of the items that we have on the agenda tonight.
Good evening. Everyone that is going to speak on any agenda item, if you would, please stand and raise your right hand. do solemnly swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth under penalty of perjury.
All right, one more item of housekeeping before we get started. I understand I skipped an item. We do need to address the consent agenda, and it has one item on it. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. If discussion is requested, the item will be removed from the consent agenda and it will be discussed separately. The only item we have on tonight's consent agenda is the approval of the minutes for our June 9th, 2026 meeting. Can you speak into your microphone, please?
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Okay, is there a second?
I second.
All right, so it's been moved by Commissioner Bayless and seconded by Commissioner Chevington that we approve the minutes. This is a roll call vote. Commissioner Bayless,
Yes.
Commissioner Chevington,
Yes.
Commissioner Dran,
Yes.
Commissioner Haywood,
Yes.
Commissioner Martinez,
Yes.
and Commissioner Homan, yes. Okay, let the record show that that has been accepted, and we will officially move on to our hearings now. So the first hearing we have, CU 2602. It is a request by Daniel Chavis on behalf of DADS, D-A-D-S LLC, requests conditional use for an institutional use for the property located at 6714 4th Street. This was deferred from our June 9th, 2026 P&Z meeting and is for a Bernalillo County SWAT facility. Director Schultz, would you like to give us a summary?
Yeah, Madam Chair, thank you. CU-2602, as mentioned, was deferred from last month's meeting in order to give the applicant time to provide more information to staff about the proposed use and its potential impacts on the surrounding area. The request from the applicant is to allow a Bernalillo County SWAT facility, which would include mostly warehousing and a little bit of office-type uses on the property. The code would consider that to be an institutional use, and an institutional use in the C1 zone district requires, I'm sorry, it's not C1, in the CC, the core commercial zone district, requires a conditional use permit. So the body tonight is to assess if what the conditional use is being requested is, one, in conformance with the master plan, the village master plan. If two, there is injury to adjacent property, neighborhood, or community. And three, if any conditions of approval that this body might set could cure any conflict related to injury to adjacent property, neighborhood, or community. You'll find in the packet an email correspondence between me and the applicant in which they did answer the follow-up questions that we did not have in front of us during last month's hearing. Based on the information provided during the time of application and the supplementary information requested via email since the last meeting, staff is recommending denial of the conditional use permit. There are 10 findings that articulate why, in staff's opinion, this is not an appropriate conditional use for this location. It primarily relates to the purpose of the core commercial zone district and the 4th Street corridor and what this use would or would not provide in terms of that, in terms of the intent of the core commercial zone. The findings state that the core commercial zone is really intended to provide kind of a viable commercial center for the village related to retail services, pedestrian-friendly, neighborhood scale, and staff could not justify that a SWAT facility that would mostly be kind of a closed-off, staff-only facility would provide those things called for in the purpose of the CC zone district and as contemplated in the master plan. Some of the questions that staff followed up on with the applicants related to how often the facility would be used, how often vehicles would come and go, and how this facility would actually serve the village, or would it be serving more regional areas. It would be a 24/7 facility in which vehicles would likely be responding to emergencies. The concern that staff has with that on the 4th Street corridor is that is a 25-mile-an-hour corridor in which it isn't anticipated to be a pedestrian-friendly, smaller scale, low vehicle speed safety corridor. Just by its nature, I think emergency vehicles flying in and out of the property is pretty incompatible with that. Additionally, I did reach out to our public safety liaison at the village who got some information from the sheriff's office for us. The SWAT team at BCSO has not responded to anything in the village in at least the last 3 years, and so this facility would not be serving the village. There is not a need for SWAT response in the village. This would really be a regional kind of storage facility for these vehicles and other equipment to go out into elsewhere, Bernalillo County. With that, I'll stand for any questions about my findings in the staff report.
Are there any questions?
I have a
Commissioner Bayless?
question. On page 21 of our packet, there's a outline of the, I guess, the lot that we're going to be giving or considering a special use for. It looks to be a fairly large space with 3 or 4 different buildings on it. On page 31 of the packet, there is a smaller portion of that outlined in red.
Mm-hmm.
So my question is, are we being asked to give a conditional use for the entire lot or just for this place that's outlined in red on page 31?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Bayless, great question. It's just the building and the associated parking that is outlined on page 31. If it's the will of the commission to approve the conditional use, we will need to draft new findings and conditions, and there would be a condition attached to this approval that specifies that this use is only permitted in that portion of the property.
Do we know whether there are other tenants on the lot that, other than in the little area outlined in red?
Mary Homan, I'm sorry, Chair Homan, Commissioner Bayless, I would leave that question to the applicant when they come to speak to you during their portion of the presentation.
And I noticed from your findings that the zone requirements require 3 parking spaces for every square foot of gross space being used. The building appears to be 50 by 100 or 5,000 square feet, so that would require 15 parking spaces. Do you know whether there's enough room in this little red area outlined on page 31 to provide those 15 parking spaces?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Bayless, parking was not a concern as a part of my decision. They would be able to meet the parking requirements for the conditional use permit, and that would be a part of a finding or a condition if this body chooses to approve.
I have a couple other questions, but I'll wait for the applicant.
Okay. Are there any other questions of our director? Okay, not hearing any. Can we have the applicant approach? Give your name, address.
Daniel Valles. I'm part of DAS LLC. We're one of the partial owners for 6714 4th Street. So I can go, I have some responses for her findings. I can go over that first. I'm not sure how this works. Once again, I want to actually apologize to how it went last meeting, where the speaker that was up here was not prepared, and I'm hoping a little bit more prepared than him, answer a little bit better questions. Do you want to go over the findings first, or do you want to spill my guts? You guys name it. You guys name it. Or you want to ask some questions, whatever's good for you guys.
Well, it's whatever you think is going to be
All right,
persuasive, quite frankly.
all right, well, I'll start talking then. I'm known for talking. All right, so this request is not about bringing police operations into the village. It's about allowing Bernalillo County to securely store specialized equipment, emergency vehicles that are already zoned to be allowed in institutional uses through the conditional use process. And yes, SWAT should be institutional. They're a government organization. Also, let's see here. And also says that about safety and making the village safe and for large numbers, helping people with large numbers. support desired commercial. Well, I'm pretty sure, well, I know, police presence will indeed help pedestrians feel safe and welcoming entering the core commercial zone. And we will help attract desired commercial activity, especially with the recent added residential complex just a few blocks away. The property itself is not a residential subdivision. It's already in a commercial corridor. The buildings that are right next to it, we have automotive shops, transmission shops, O'Reilly's. There's tons of different just commercial buildings there. And a secure indoor facility is going to create very little traffic, almost no customers, minimal parking demand, no deliveries compared to retail, less daily activity than many commercial uses already allowed. The building that houses vehicles and equipment required in dangerous circumstances, people working in the offices that have been trained, not are in training, but actually trained to help in those circumstances, I believe will help out the community. Now, let's see here. And for the findings in 4 and 5, it says the applicant has not adequately justified that the proposed uses in the master plan and the commercial development that supports self-movement, beautifies major commercial areas, reduces the lights and noises, and visually impacts. The staff report evaluates this proposal as though every property on 4th Street is pedestrian realty. It's not. The zone itself is commercial. And in the core is commercial. It's commercial just everywhere around us. And also, just answering the question about the parking, there's plenty of parking, and it is only going to be in the area that was marked in red on page 31. The staff argues that because there has been few SWAT deployments inside the village limits, the facility provides little village benefits. That logic would suggest no regional emergency resources should ever be located in the village. Emergency or infrastructure exists and serve the entire village. Residents benefit from BCSO response to barricade suspects, active shooters, hostage situations, high-risk warrants, and disasters. Preparedness isn't measured by how often it's measured at how it is used. There's no evidence of impacts. The recommendation assumes impacts that have never been demonstrated. There is no evidence that emergency vehicles will require to leave the site with lights, sirens. There's no evidence that excessive traffic, noise, lighting, and disruption, these may concern. We cannot limit the amount of responses that the SWAT team will be called to. But I guarantee you, every single person here, if you know somebody that needs a response, you'd be happy if the quicker and faster they get to your location. Conditional use exists because conditions can make otherwise unique and uses capable in the surrounding properties. If no conditions could ever address, conditional use process would have little purpose. This request is not asking to approve an active tactical operations center. It is asking the village to approve a secure indoor storage location with specialized public safety equipment on commercially zoned property that institutionally uses is already allowed in the zoning ordinance. The staff recommendation relies heavily on assumptions about that what might occur, that evidence that actually impacts. Those concerns can be addressed through reasonable conditions of approval, which is precisely why conditional use process exists. We are fine having no, training with shooting down there. We can put quite a bit of stuff in the lease. The problem we talked about last time with the lease, it's hard for us to get a lease written up with the SWAT without being approved yet. It's a costly process, costly taxpayer process. We're fine drawing something up, with no shooting required, no training on site, no outdoor parking. There's plenty of parking inside for the SWAT vehicles themselves. But so most of the time, the parking is gonna be pretty empty. And I know it's not to everybody's consideration wanting a restaurant in every single corner, or, you know, a cannabis shop. I know it's not allowed cannabis, but you guys know what I mean. I know it's not part of that situation, but it's gonna be great for the village. It's keeping the area clean. You're not gonna have tons of foot traffic, and it's gonna keep a lot of the riffraff that people don't want away from that entry corridor. We call that entry corridor, you know, the Christmas light corridor. Because when you drive up there, that's where the Christmas lights start. I think it'd look pretty dang nice where you drive up and it's nice and clean, and you don't have riffraff just hanging out in every corner. And that's why I know that this will help generate with the village. So if you guys have any questions.
Commissioners, are there questions?
Yeah, I have a couple. Is this the only SWAT facility that Bernalillo County will have? Will all of their equipment be here, or do they have other locations?
There's other locations. This is just the regional area, I believe, correct? Yes, just the regional area. So there's other SWAT facilities around the city and state.
Do you know how many other facilities?
I do not.
There, from the little map that you provided us outlining the building and the area that SWAT's going to be using, there are other buildings on your property. Are they occupied by other tenants?
We have Albuquerque Marine is in there, and then we just signed a lease with, what's the name of the company? Ranito del Sol. It's a child daycare. And I guarantee the daycare will love having police response that close in case, we live in a crazy world nowadays.
Well, I guess my question is, the statute requires you to notify, and you have notified all the neighboring parcels. Have you
Yes.
notified the other tenants who occupy the same parcel?
Yes, it's Albuquerque Marine. Albuquerque Marine, or is it Albuquerque Marine? Albuquerque Marine. They occupy that parcel.
Pardon me, let me ask you a quick question.
Yes.
They vacated everything as far as the outside look. There's no boats left there.
There's boats on site. There's plenty of boats on site. We keep, well, Dad's LLC, we make sure, I don't know if you guys remember before we moved into this area and we got that property. That property was a mess. There's broken down vehicles in every square inch of that property. Napa building was falling apart. The car rental place was falling apart. The reason you don't see those boats is because we actually have them parking the boats in the back every night so they cannot be seen. That's why when you guys have when you guys shut down 4th Street and you have one of the greatest things, the Glodio, that was awesome. We're proud to be there and be part of it. That's why there wasn't boats left in front. If you go over there at night, there's never no boats left in front. All those boats are made to be pulled apart in the back. That's why it looks like it's empty, but it's not empty. The only time you see the boats in the front is if they're selling a boat, but they're kind of getting away from the sales. If they have a boat for sale or overflow. But right now with the child daycare, they're no longer parking the boats in the front because that's the child daycare parking area. So everything, that's why we try keeping the area clean. All the boats get parked in the back every night. The only time you'll see the boats in the front, like I said, if somebody's picking it up, if there's a person dropping off or picking up. And they're not parked in the road, of course. They're parked on between the two buildings, kind of the south side of the building. But yeah, all the boats are parked in the back, and there's a block wall that actually secures the whole back area. So that's why you don't see a mess down there. And I guarantee you that the neighborhood is happy to have us keeping it clean. Yeah.
Is there any restriction in your agreement with the sheriff's department as to exactly what they're going to be storing there? I mean, SWAT equipment could be anything from a tank to a gas mask.
No, we don't have, we haven't written anything up about that, but all that equipment is going to be stored safely inside, and secured safely inside. And they have the requirements where they cannot just, you're not going to have bazooka seen on the floor. There's safety requirements. They have to build cages for any artillery. It's a safe facility. The offices inside the facility are meant for the personnel that are ready to go whenever, if something ever happens. But like the staff said, it's a rare occasion, but if it does happen, it'd be nice to have them there. Especially, you go down, I know they're saying that 4th Street is not, especially in the readings, it says 4th Street is no longer a highway. We understand 4th Street is no longer a highway, but it's still a main corridor for a lot of the villas of Los Ranchos. It's a main corridor. I'd rather have a police presence closer to where the residential area is, because 4th Street's not a residential area, it's all commercial. But I'd rather have a police presence closer to my household, my kid's school.
You do.
My kid's school. And I know you, I heard you say you do. I know you have the county sheriff down the road. But this is more for high emergency. High emergency. And it's not gonna be, I know you said you have the fire department down the road, and you have the sheriff department, but this is more of a natural disaster, high emergency situation. And it's good to be prepared. It's good for them to be down the road. I know you said it's not a highway. I understand it's not a highway. We all here understand it's not a highway, and that's why it's gonna bring less traffic and less people flying down that road than I guarantee that's going up through right now. But it's gonna be, I think it's gonna be good for the community, and especially with the amount of pedestrians that we brought in with the residential facility that was built on the corner of 4th and Osuna. It's gonna be it's gonna make it a lot safer.
Any other questions?
I don't know if you'll know the answer to this, but the other locations where they have SWAT, equipment, are any of them on a road that's 25 miles an hour?
I do not have the answer for that.
Okay. Because I think some of the questions that the staff were asking about mitigating, speeding on a road or sirens and stuff. I mean, I think you could probably look at other facilities and look at, traffic or speeding and stuff, because I think that seems to be a major concern about that corridor.
And I understand some major concern about that corridor. I do understand that. If the SWAT situation does happen, and I guarantee all of us here hope it does not, we're hoping that building stays just a nice, peaceful building where it looks nice on the outside and looks like a beautiful entrance to 4th Street. But if it does, if something like that does happen, you're gonna have sirens coming from both directions. It's not just gonna be coming out of the SWAT situation.
I have a question.
Yes, Commissioner.
You talked a lot of, this is Paul Chivington. I'm sorry, I had surgery.
I don't know where to look. I'm just kidding.
You're looking the right direction. You talked about a police presence, and then you talked about this facility just being for storage, and I can't figure out how those two connect.
So, can I answer? So they're gonna have SWAT vehicles stationed there, but it's gonna also it has office space inside. So there's gonna be trained professionals, of course, inside the facility.
Any other questions, Commissioner Chevington?
No, that's it. Thank you.
So do you know if is it going to be manned 24/7?
There's gonna be, it's made for the offices for somebody to be there 24/7. I would have to find out. Like I said, we can't get a lease drawn up, and that can be all stuff we can put in the lease. That somebody has to be on site 24/7. We can't draw up a lease until we can see if we can get approval for it.
So if it has firearms inside, which I assume would be part of the equipment, are they going to be in a locked safe or just a cage area?
They'll be locked up. They'll be locked up, but we just can't give the amount that they'll be locked up until I'm finding out exactly how they'll be locked up, but they will be locked up. And we can put that in our lease.
Because there's a difference if it's locked behind a cage versus in a secure, safe area. And is that going to be guarded 24/7?
And we can put that in the recommendations. Like I said, I'm new to this, but what we're trying to do is give them an idea of what they'll need to get in here. But without us having any kind of idea of what they need, it's hard for us to draw any kind of lease up.
So I know concerns will include if there's a SWAT situation, the personnel that need to get that equipment, are they gonna come through the village, high rate of speed? There's sirens going all hours of the night and day whenever it's required. And then as well, once they've all got into whatever vehicles and gathered whatever materials that they need, are they gonna be leaving with the sirens and the lights and everything going once again 24/7?
That same thing, that's a question we cannot answer because it's not known. But if there's a SWAT situation, like I said, you're gonna have vehicles coming from BCSO already in the fire department in that area.
Right, we've
And-
already got two, as you've mentioned.
And I understand that. I understand you got two, but it's gonna be nice for the community. That's all I could say. I know you keep on asking about sirens, but I cannot answer about sirens. That's like me going outside now and saying, hey, you know what, there's gonna be a siren coming down the road in 5 minutes. We don't know that. We don't know that. We can't answer a hypothetical question.
Great. All right. No other questions of our applicant at this time? All right, let's go on. Are there any members that signed up that wish to speak in favor? So I've got, can you tell me your name so I can check it off of the list too?
David Newman.
David Newman. Oh, you're the one that signed up on the other. Okay.
Yep. Gonna come up the-
Please give your name and address.
My name is David Newman. I live at 504 Mary's Way. I also own four commercial properties along the 4th Street corridor in the village. I've also developed a small subdivision in the village. So I'm heavily vested in the village. I own properties, I live in the village. I'm very much in favor of the county occupying that space. I'm not there's already the sheriff's department there that respond to calls and, safely access 4th Street with the speed limit and everything. It's already an activity that's there, so I'm not understanding why the other facility is not already.
Continue, please.
So anyway, one of the reasons why I live in the village, one of the reasons why I've heavily invested in the village is because it's safe. And having that badging and everything that probably will be there, I think really makes that side of the community safer and probably will prohibit maybe other activities that could come from that direction, maybe not coming from that direction. So I also know that this group has heavily invested in cleaning up the property, making it look nice. And so they're also invested in the village. I really strongly feel that the village should strongly consider or approve their request. Any questions of me?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, anybody else? Yes, thank you. Please, if you will approach, give your name and address.
Billy Lehman and 296 Alamosa Road. I just wanted to mention too, we were asking about the speed and the 25 miles per hour and there's a sheriff's department right down the road in the same speed, and then there's a fire department right down the road, same speed limit. So they're both activated a lot more than SWAT. I don't have the statistics for BCSO because they're for the times that SWAT was dispatched last year, but for comparison, SWAT was dispatched for Rio Rancho 15 times in a year. So, that's maybe once a month that they would need it, right? And really it just brings more safety to Rio Rancho. I heard her say that SWAT hasn't been needed in Rio Rancho, but do you wait until it's needed, right? Or when it is needed, and if they're not close and somebody gets hurt, somebody dies, there's a problem because they couldn't get here in time, when they could have been right down the road, is there gonna be fallback for that? Something bad happens and SWAT can't get here in time, but they could have been here because they could have been right there. And then just so you guys know, I'm also working with Dad's LLC in brokering the deal with BCSO. I'm a real estate broker who located this location for this reason, right? So I can answer any of the questions that maybe Daniel had a hard time with, or some of them. I don't know everything there is to know about SWAT, but I know a lot about what's being stored there, and dealing with the guys that are using it, the guys that are in charge. So if you have any questions, happy to help.
Have they described to you how they would secure firearms?
Yeah, so they secure firearms for, that's basically step one in any process, right? So there can be a cage, we can require a safe, it depends on what you want. It'd be, right down the street, Los Ranchos Guns was there for how long? 20 years, since I was little. And then they moved across the street, and then he ended up going out of business during COVID, I think. But they would be definitely secured a lot better than they were in Los Ranchos Gun Shop, because I went in that store a lot, and I don't know how many of you guys know or what requirements there were of storing guns, but they were essentially just on the shelf in there. So it's a lot more. There's going to be a huge security aspect to that building. There's $15 million worth of equipment going in that building. So you're asking if it's going to be easier, or maybe somebody could get in there and steal some guns, or somebody could get in there and do something. That's number one priority. The reason for them finding a new location is because they just spent, I think it was $7 million on a new piece of equipment that they can't store in the facility that they're leasing now because it's not the right size. So when one piece of equipment's worth that much, the priority to secure everything in there is huge.
Anybody else? Nope. Thank you.
Great, thanks.
Shauna, may I ask you, was there any kind of a request for BCSO or anybody that's actually representing the possible tenant to come and speak to us?
Madam Chair, no, the village has not heard from BCSO itself. It's been the real estate broker and Dad's LLC.
Okay. Is there anybody else wishing to speak in favor? If you give your name and address, please.
My name is Olga Sanchez. I live on 1130 Green Valley Road. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm in favor of the CU-26-02. Now, wasn't there a SWAT facility, or at least a storage here, right here on the village?
There was.
Now, I walk this park every day, and I've never experienced anything negative about the SWAT team here. They were very courteous. The men and women in uniform were polite, and they weren't speeding in and out. There were no sirens. Now, the fire department, when they was here, that was hectic. They would zoom around the corner. Since I live on Green Valley, they would zoom on Green Valley, blaring their sirens. What's the difference of having the SWAT team on 4th Street and the fire department? I think it's an asset to have the SWAT facility here on 4th Street, and I support it. I think it's great. I felt real safe, and walk my dog every day, and it was at night, and it was all fine. And we never had any cars zooming in or anything like that. There was nothing like that. So I totally support it, and I thank you. Also, when there's a sheriff's car parked in the village parking lot, oh, you're gonna mess around? There could be a sheriff there. There's a whole SWAT team on 4th Street. Well, I don't mess around. Anyway, that's my point.
Thank you. Anybody else? Are you speaking in favor?
In favor.
Thank you, sir. If you give your name and address, please.
My name's Art. I live at 312 Enchanted Valley Road Northwest, and I have no problem with the police squad team moving in there. And it's not any different than having a bunch of fire trucks going back and forth. I hear sirens all night long with my window open, and you're not gonna hear the SWAT team there every night. Police and fire equipment go by every night. I hear sirens all night long, and it's music to my ear. I think it's a safety feature having them there. That's it.
Thank you. Yes, you can, come on. You know the drill, name and address, please.
Teresa Rael, 1005 El Alhambra. So in listening to this, my friend is on the SWAT team, and he lives right here in Tam Farms. So I asked him about the sirens, and he said the guys have asked will not use the sirens. Most of the calls are for warrants planned in advance, so nobody uses sirens at all. And then I asked how often the SWAT team is dispatched. And he said we only get maybe 2 calls a month, mostly in and out is for training. Plenty of months, no calls. And then I asked, how are they securing firearms? Giant safes and in locked armored trucks. Much safer than in any individual's home. Really, all the guns are carried in the individual cars that each deputy drives. The guns kept in the armored trucks fire non-lethal beanbags and smoke or gas projectiles. Rifles and pistols are issued to individual deputies. The deputies need these to be with them at all times. So, in my opinion, the fire department's there, BCSO is there, so if you can ask them on the contract not to use sirens, I think you could do that. So I'm not opposed to it.
Thank you. Okay, are we ready to move to those folks that are in opposition? Are you speaking in opposition? No. No, in favor, okay,
In
gotcha.
favor. Vincent Sanchez, 6802 Rio Grande. As someone that has lived next to the Village Hall when it was a fire department and later a SWAT storage facility, all while the speed limit was 25 miles an hour on Rio Grande, I want to speak in support of this conditional use. I wish it was coming back closer to me here at the Village Hall instead. The park would likely have less problems, as reports of people sleeping on the tennis court and my own observations of tents behind the back of the village garage, and just the other night, someone riding circles on a dirt bike in the park outside. As said, riffraff would be squashed in the adjacent area. I believe the presence of actual law enforcement is a benefit to any neighborhood. I believe this choice should be weighed heaviest by the surrounding neighbors. But if I were to guess, the surrounding neighbors would want the daily benefit of BCSO presence and accept the occasional noise and activity that might come with the emergency response. A 25-mile-an-hour speed limit does nothing to prevent crime, but BCO presence will. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I think we've had the last of the folks in support, so is there anybody in opposition that would like to speak? Seeing and hearing none, we will close the hearing portion for the input from the community. And we will open this up to just the commissioners for discussion and any further questions they have of Director Schultz or our attorney. Yes, Commissioner Haywood.
Director Schultz, correct me if I'm wrong. Institutions don't pay gross receipts tax?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Haywood, I'm not sure if they pay gross receipts tax. A property owned by a government doesn't pay property tax, but I'm not sure about gross receipts tax.
Mr. Chappell.
Madam Chair and Commissioner Haywood, gross receipts tax are not levied on rental payments of anyone.
So my general comment to the public, but mostly to the commissioners, is I don't think anybody's disputing the benefits of the safety, but the big issue is actually, this is a small village corridor with small human scale development that we're trying to foster, and things that generate gross receipts tax, community engagement, feet on the ground. It's not a safety issue. It's a human presence issue and a revenue generating issue. And to me, that's the biggest sticking point. We already have safety in the area. I don't know that one more is gonna make that much difference, but it's gonna make, and the problem that I'm wrestling with is the structure itself is not inviting to anything that we really want in terms of small-scale commercial, feet on the ground. But we're generally trying to set a precedent for what we want it to look like in the future, 20, 30 years from now. And this is not what we wanted when we did a core commercial zone.
Mr. Bayless?
I'm still bothered by how much we don't know. I wish we had heard from somebody from BCSO about how many other facilities they have, how big an area this is going to serve, how many people they're going to have here, how often. I know they can't tell us exactly how many dispatches they're going to have from this facility, but they can tell us how many dispatches they had last year in Bernalillo County and how many facilities they have, and we could figure out on average. And all we have is from the applicant is, I don't know, I can't tell you, they haven't told me. He doesn't know how many vehicles they're going to store, what kind of equipment. And I appreciate all of the public comments thinking that safety is a good thing, and that they think that more police presence might be helpful, but this isn't the police presence that's available to call when somebody's soliciting. This is a real specialized police presence that would only be available in some kind of extreme emergency. And I just I haven't had enough of my questions answered. And I'm not sure that the other people who occupy that same lot have been notified. Mr. Sanchez said they have been, but we don't have any evidence that the other people who are occupying the same space know what's going in there. And so I'm
right here. I'm okay with it. Yeah, we're the owners of ABQ Marine, and
well,
we're all here.
but we don't have that in our record.
No.
And if the sheriff's office really wanted this facility, importantly, I think they could have sent somebody here to tell us these questions that we've asked before and still don't have answers for.
Thank you. Commissioners?
I think I have kind of the same quandary as Commissioner Hayward in that I don't think we're disputing that having this facility makes the village safer. I think the issue is that where it's at. Obviously, there's already a marine storage facility. You know, there's a similar type storage facility there. But I think since then, the zoning has changed. And we want 4th Street to be, you know, have a more kind of community feel where people can walk and eat and do all these things. And I don't know if that fits what is current zoning. And so I feel like if this was somewhere else, it would be an easy, yeah, great. But it's just because of where it's at. And so I think I'm with you in that it's a hard decision to kind of think about, because I think it will make it safer. I think obviously there's a lot more people in favor, you know. It's just that it doesn't fit what I think the master plan wants for 4th Street right now. And I'm sure as property owners, that's hard for you guys because you already have a storage facility, you have other things. But I think it looks like zoning has changed since you bought that property. Or actually, I'm not really sure when you bought the property, but I would assume it has changed since then. And that's a hard one to kind of grapple with.
Commissioner Martinez, do you have anything? Commissioner Chivington, do you have anything?
I'm still hung up on this idea of additional safety. The sheriff's office is just down the street. Having a storage facility a few blocks away, to me, doesn't increase the effectiveness of the sheriff's office right there in the middle of town.
Okay. So, before we have a motion or anything, I want to read the following. This applies to this business item. The Planning and Zoning Department deemed that this matter is quasi-judicial proceeding, which means that certain individual processes and protections are required. One of these protections ensures the adherence to due process, including but not limited to full disclosure at this time of any member of the commission of any real or potential conflict of interest associated with this matter or engagement in any ex parte communication regarding this matter. So, Commissioner Bayless, do you have a conflict of interest in this matter?
I do not.
Have you engaged in any ex parte communication?
I have not.
Commissioner Chivington, do you have a conflict of interest in this matter?
I do not.
Have you engaged in any ex parte communication regarding this matter?
I have not.
Commissioner Duran, do you have a conflict of interest in this matter?
No,
Have you engaged in any ex parte communication in this matter?
no,
Commissioner Haywood, do you have a conflict of interest in this matter?
No,
Have you engaged in any ex parte communication in this matter?
no,
Commissioner Martinez, do you have a conflict of interest in this matter?
No.
Have you engaged in any ex parte communication in this
No.
matter? And I, Mary Homan, do not have a conflict of interest in this matter either, nor have I engaged in any ex parte communication regarding this matter. So, is there anything else you would like to, I'm sorry, we've closed it for input from the community. There was an opportunity earlier.
I wasn't here.
I'm sorry.
I've been on the SWAT team for 39 years, and I thought I might be able to answer. I've lived in the village since '92.
I'm sorry, sir.
Okay. You don't want to do that. Yeah.
No, I would have loved it if it had been timely. Ms. Director Sanchez, or Schultz, do you have anything else to add before we ask for a motion?
Madam Chair, I have nothing further in closing. I think my recommendation is supported by the 10 findings in the record. If it's the will of this body to instead recommend approval, we will either need to defer this item or give me about a 20-minute recess to draft findings that would support that. Otherwise, I can stand for any further questions.
Okay. One question I had that I don't believe we addressed earlier is what kind of signage is going to be on the building should we approve this?
Madam Chair, any signage on the property would come through separately with a sign permit through the department. The conditional use really only addresses the use of the property. If they wanted to erect additional fencing or signage, that would be handled through a separate permitting process.
All right. Okay, with that, is there a motion from the board?
I make a motion to deny.
Okay, is there a second?
Madam Chair,
Hold on.
Commissioner Haywood, can you specify subject to the findings 1 through 10 in the staff report, please?
Subject to the findings of 1 through 10 in the staff report.
Commissioner Chivington, did I hear you trying to second?
Yes, you did.
And do you agree to the conditions as well?
Yes.
Okay, this opens us up for further discussion regarding this exact motion. Are there any further discussion regarding the motion at hand? Okay, then I will call the matter. It's been moved by Commissioner Haywood that we deny with the findings of the planner, and it's been seconded by Commissioner Chivington. This is a roll call vote. Commissioner Haywood.
I vote in favor of the motion.
Okay, that's Bayless. Commissioner Bayless, you vote in favor? Well, wait a minute. Okay, yes, got it. Okay.
Vote to deny the variance.
Perfect. Commissioner Chivington.
I vote to deny.
Okay, Commissioner Duran.
I vote to deny.
Commissioner Haywood.
Yes.
Commissioner Martinez.
Yes.
And Commissioner Homan, I am really on the fence on this. I am going to say I don't agree because I think we need more information. But with that, out of the 6 votes, we've got 5 supporting the denial, and that is what we will rule on. So let the record show that a quorum was present for the meeting and we voted to deny the applicant. All right, we'll go on to the next item. This is V2603, Robin Barber, son of Rosalie and Rosalie Roselle, okay. Danek, how do you say the last name? Denicky, thank you so much. I'm sorry I butchered it. Requests a variance to the minimum dimensions required for occupancy of a recreational vehicle located at 7707 Guadalupe Trail, Northwest. Once again, the following will apply to this item of business. Planning and Zoning Department has deemed this matter to be quasi-judicial proceeding, which means that certain individual processes and protections are required. One of these protections ensures the adherence of due process, including but not limited to full disclosure at this time of any member of the commission of any real or potential conflict of interest associated with this matter or engagement in any ex parte communication regarding this item. Commissioner Bayless, do you have a conflict of interest in this matter?
No,
Have you engaged in any ex parte communication in this matter?
I have not.
Commissioner Chevington, do you have a conflict of interest in this matter?
No,
Have you engaged in any ex parte communication regarding this matter?
I have not.
Commissioner Duran, do you have a conflict of interest in this matter?
No.
Have you engaged in any ex parte communication regarding this item?
No.
Commissioner Haywood, do you have a conflict of interest in this matter?
No.
Have you engaged in any ex parte communication regarding this item?
No.
Commissioner Martinez, do you have a conflict of interest in this matter?
No.
Have you engaged in any ex parte communication in this item?
No.
And myself, I have not engaged in, I do not have a conflict of interest in this matter. I did receive a call from John, what's our trustee's last name? Edward. And he was asking if I knew anything about this or was willing to talk about it, and I told him, I'm sorry, I could not talk with him about it. So with that, that would deem that I have no ex parte communication as well. Commissioner Schultz, do you have a planning report for us?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This request and the next request are extremely interrelated. I will talk about them at the same time, but just understand that you are voting on two distinct requests that are intertwined with one another. So the first request is for a variance to standards in the village's zoning code related to the minimum size for a mobile home. What the applicant would like to do is request in the following item a conditional use to be able to reside in a mobile home on a property while a primary structure is being constructed. The code generally does not allow for occupancy of a mobile home within village limits, except through this conditional use process where if you need to stay in a mobile home while a building is being constructed, you can do that under some certain provisions related to getting a conditional use request with some associated restrictions in the zoning code. So the conditional use request itself is to occupy the mobile home for 1 year while a home is under construction. However, the particular mobile home that the applicant has on site already does not meet the dimensional standards in the code for a mobile home. So if they want to use the conditional use allowance in the code, they first need to get the variance so that they can reside in a mobile home that's smaller than what the code would normally require. So the first request in front of you relates to a variance to those mobile home standards. The code says that there is a minimum footage for how wide a mobile home has to be, how long it has to be, and how many square feet it has to be. The applicant can meet the width requirements, but not the length or the square footage requirements. And so this variance would approve, the variance is requested for a 12-foot 1-inch variance to the 40-foot minimum length requirement, and also a 96.7 square foot variance to the 320 square foot minimum in the code. A couple of points to note. If it's the will of the commission to deny the variance, the conditional use request becomes moot because the applicant cannot meet the dimensional standards associated with that conditional use request. My staff report is not clear about that in the analysis for the conditional use. I'm recommending denial of the variance based on the criteria, which I'll talk about, but I was recommending approval of the conditional use request. That is only predicated on this idea that the variance would also be approved. So if the variance is to not be approved, it would likely make the most sense for the commission to request withdrawal of the conditional use because the applicant would not be able to meet the standards. Back to the item at hand, the variance. The variance criteria in the village zoning code is explicit. You have to show conformance with the master plan. There has to be public interest and village character considerations. But the hardest test to meet, and the one that I found the applicant could not meet in this instance, was a hardship criteria. The variance criteria at the village says that what you're requesting a variance from has to be under a hardship that was not self-imposed. Generally, this means that there is something so funky about the lot that you acquired or inherited or that was subdivided long before you had it, that the strict application of the rules are not reasonable for you in the same way that they're reasonable for your neighbors. I could not find a way to justify that the choice of mobile home was not a self-imposed hardship. There's kind of in-depth analysis about this in my staff report, but for that reason, I did find that it could further some of the variance criteria, not all of it. What the code says is you have to be able to justify all criteria, not just some. So for those reasons, the staff recommendation is a denial subject to the findings in the staff report.
So I have a question for you to start us off. When did the village put in this requirement of mobile home size? I've been on the board for a long time, and perhaps I haven't been focused on this exact element.
Madam Chair, I don't have that history. I was not able to locate. We do have a veteran village staff member in the audience, and maybe Bill might have some insight into when this was put into place, but I do not know.
Madam Chair, it's my belief that it was in effect when I started representing the village in 2005.
Okay. Is there any specific reasoning that has ever been, documented basically on why there is a minimum size? I mean, obviously we don't want someone pitching a tent and looking like they're a vagrant camping out. But what is the background? What is the verification on this?
Madam Chair, I tried to locate the enabling legislation for this provision, and sometimes you can reveal legislative intent if you can find the ordinance that adopted that change, if you can find the minutes from that meeting. I was not able to discern any kind of legislative intent, but perhaps Mr. Chappell has some insight.
Yeah. Madam Chair, the way the definition works, that is the only criteria that the village has to distinguish between a mobile home or a manufactured home and a recreational vehicle. So the purpose of that definition is to say, if you don't meet the size and dimensions of a mobile home or manufactured home, which is in the same definition, then it's treated as a recreational vehicle. And there are provisions throughout the ordinance that deal specifically with recreational vehicles different than it deals with mobile home. So that is the delineation between the two. It is simply a size limitation between mobile home and recreational vehicle.
So I have a question then. I assume from what you just explained, Mr. Chappell, that you're not allowed to use a recreational vehicle as a temporary residence while you're building a house. You can only use a mobile home.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Bayless, yes, per the code, you can only request this conditional use for a mobile home. And because the applicant can't meet that dimensional standard, if he was able to get relief from that via a variance, then the village could consider it a mobile home.
Then my other question is, you said if we deny the variance, the conditional use request becomes moot. But if we denied the variance and he got a bigger RV that was 320 square feet, then he could use that.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Bayless, that's absolutely true. And if that's to be the case, I would suggest that we defer the conditional use request because the village would want evidence of what mobile home is going to be used that meets the specs.
We don't have to deny one and ignore the other.
Correct.
All right.
So even though it could be an RV, I mean, there are my husband would correct me and tell me it's actually a bus, not a motorhome, but a bus. because he manufactured those at one time, that are, 8 or 10 even, by 40 and 42, that would be acceptable?
Madam Chair, as long as it met the size limitations, it could be a bus.
One last question, the application said he wants to continue residing there. Is he already living there in this RV on this lot?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Bayless, yes, these two requests stemmed out of a code enforcement action that is currently pending before a municipal court for illegal occupancy of an RV because the village does not allow that. We made contact with Mr. Barber to explain how he could potentially continue to live on site, and it would have to be if he could get a variance and if he could start construction on a primary dwelling because the code only allows for the occupancy while a dwelling is under construction.
Do we know how long he's been residing there?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Bayless, I would have to look back at my code enforcement data to see how long the village has been aware, but you may be able to ask the applicant that
How long the village
question.
has been aware, yeah. Okay.
Any other questions of the director? Commissioner Martinez?
One of the concerns that I have is that anytime that you're basically just backing up a little bit, anytime that you're doing a construction, it makes more sense in my mind to have a RV because it's temporary than a mobile home because of the size and the spacing that you need to basically live and have the room to park it plus have enough room to construct your home. So I'm a little confused on to park a mobile home, you almost have to go through a process which is totally different than the RV. And that's where I'm getting a little confused over here because it makes more sense when you look at the fundamentals. I'm going to build a home. I need to stay in a place while I'm building it. The RV makes more sense than a mobile home. Because when you bring in a mobile home, the amount of investment into the size, and then you have to get rid of it instead of driving it away or pulling it off. And I just don't know if it's something that we need to reevaluate and kind of look at the code because of that. But that's my input into that specificness. And then the other part that is more concerning is because it's been sitting there for a long time, my concern is what is the teeth that we have to make sure that he comes in and gives a floor plan and has a financial ability to build a home, because the last thing that we want to do is go through this process and in a year hear that because of financial, because of et cetera, now there's another variance because he wasn't able to get the construction and or building of the home, so we're back to the fundamentals of a mobile home being on a lot. Those are my concerns getting into looking at the big picture of this specific one.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Martinez, I think I heard you articulate kind of 2 points and I can respond to them both. I don't disagree with you that the rules are a little nonsensical, but we are stuck with the rules as they are written. I agree that it needs to be reworked at some point, and it is on my long list of text amendments to the code. This definitely highlighted an issue with the code. I think you pointed that out correctly. Second, I think that the village has teeth in the conditions of approval that are associated with the conditional use. That conditional use is really clear that you only get to do this for a year. It is based on the construction of a permanent dwelling on the property, and that once that 1 year is up, you are once again out of compliance, and a code enforcement action can and will be brought against the property owner. So there is a little bit of a fire to light under the applicant, and we do that through the conditions of approval.
And we can talk to the applicant. Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Bayless, I found that information for you. The first code enforcement letter that we sent to Mr. Barber was from January of this year.
I'm sorry?
January of this year.
Okay.
Commissioner Grand, did you have a question?
No, it was just, I mean, I guess on the requirements, the 40-foot minimum length, I know you said that you're going to be, it's on your list of things to amend. I would note that manufactured homes, you can get them in a 12 by 36. So that is smaller than the current requirement, just so when you're amending, that is, and that's a manufactured home.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Duran, thank you. When I get to the point of reworking this language, you are someone I would probably reach out to for some expertise.
Commissioner Chivington, do you have any questions of the director?
Well, I'm sort of on the same page as Commissioner Martinez that it would be, I think, it would be a shame to just arbitrarily prevent this guy from proceeding because he doesn't have a 40-foot home, and some leeway somehow might be worth considering.
Thank you. Director Schultz, I have another question. You know, when we have our seasonal, when it gets to the holidays, and we have seasonal vendors that put up Christmas tree lots, every one of them I've ever seen in the village, they always bring in some little travel trailer and stuff. For some, I mean, granted, it's only for a 30-day period or 60-day period at most. Is there a special allowance for that trailer? Does our ordinances state any kind of a size limit on that? I mean, I'm just trying to do kind of an apples to apples.
Madam Chair, that is illegal. They're not supposed to be doing that. And by the time we get, our code enforcement process is generally a minimum of 30 days, but closer to 45 or 60 by the time we take you to municipal court. And by that time, those seasonal vendors are long gone. And so we cited a couple of them in December, but then, you know, come January 2nd, there was no longer a violation, and so we dismissed the case.
All right, all right. Okay, with that, let's go ahead and call the applicant up. If you would like to come up and give us a quick summary and give us your name and address as it will too.
Hi, Commissioners. My name's Robin Barber. I live at 7707 Guadalupe Trail.
I'm hard of hearing. Could you really talk into the mic? 'Cause
Certainly. How's that? Yeah, no, I understand. My name is Robin Barber. I live at 7707 Guadalupe Trail. It has belonged to my family for over 200 years. And then she was talking about hardship. I just lost my house to my ex. So I ended up, my mom owns the property. She purchased it through family. And then we're just recently getting it surveyed because it was several plots. And it's all gotten married after my mom purchased all of them. However, my mom didn't get it surveyed when she purchased it, the last piece from my uncle. So I'm having to go through, and I'm using community service to do it, and I think they're in touch with the village. But however, yes, I'm living in a travel trailer. I call it my beer can for right now. I'm going to build a house, a 2,200 square foot house, but before I can do that, I have to do one step at a time. And it's been kind of a process to get them to get me a survey so that I can combine two lots into one lot, because right now I believe it's 7705 and 7707. So those two have to be married together, and it's over just a little under 2 acres. So I have enough property. And then to your other response is, and I understand what Commissioner Martinez was saying, that thanks to my mom, I have enough funding to do whatever I wish to do on this house. And as it stands right now, I know there's people that are concerned about living in an RV, what you do with your black water and your gray water. I haul it off. I don't dump it off. It's nowhere on the property has it ever been damaged or leaked on or dumped on. My friend is here and we haul it. So I put it in containers and then I take it to a disposal site. So as far as that goes, as sanitary goes, there's no way. So I'm sorry I don't meet their limit, but by the same token, I'm certainly not going to waste money. I spent $4,200 just to get it surveyed, and it's still going on as far as if they have to keep going through the village.
But, that said, I'm not gonna go out and buy me a mobile home to sit on the property while I build another property. It just doesn't make any sense, monetarily wise. And Commissioner was right, it doesn't behoove me. So, and then, I don't know if it helps you, I have a letter, he's here today, he's my neighbor to the north. He's built his house, the neighbor to the south has built their house. My aunt and uncle live right in front of me, which is great. So, at the end of the day, all I wanna do is build a house. But until I can get that done, and one step at a time, knowing the process, I have to live in a travel trailer.
Mr. Barber, can I ask you a couple questions?
Yes, sir?
How many people live in a travel trailer? Is it just you?
Me.
All right. And in your application, you said you're using, there's a, quote, there's a water meter available. Whose water meter is it that you're using?
I get my water from my uncle out in front. My aunt and uncle live right in front of me, on the property in front of me, right off of Guadalupe Trail. So I go there and I get the water in containers off of his hose spigot.
But if you're building a house, you're gonna be mixing concrete, plaster, and stucco. You're gonna need water. You can't.
Commissioner, there's 2 meters there already present. My dad had him put them in before he passed. My dad just passed, but anyway, that's beside the point. He had them put in probably 2009, and then all the utilities are already existing there. There's a transformer that'll run 5 homes.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
There's a transformer that runs 5 homes that's on our right-of-way. There's electric, there's gas, there's cable, there's phone, and then again, I have 2 water meters there. They don't have the meter in them, but the city has gone in, the city has gone in and put their can and everything in it.
Is there sanitary sewer available?
Yep. It's
So-
it's an 8-inch line.
Is there, other than the cost of doing it, which you're gonna have to do anyway when you build a house, is there a reason you couldn't connect your travel trailer to municipal utilities, so to speak?
I certainly could, but again, Commissioner, I need to get it surveyed so that it's all one lot first. And then when I spoke to the surveyor, Tom, he said, you know, we need to make sure that everything's all correct with all these utilities. Even though in 2009, they came in and put them all in. The village came in and put the water in and sewer, and then P&M came in there, and then the gas company came in, and for some reason, they don't have any documentation of this.
How long will it take to get it surveyed?
According to Tom, again, they have to walk through the village. I mean, I'm sorry, you guys.
I mean, if we granted you a variance, how long would it take you to get it
Surveyed? I'm hoping he'll do it within the month.
Okay.
In 30 days. I don't know his schedule, but he's on it. I mean, he's already looked at all the plats, and then it has to be platted, is what he told me, Commissioner. So I don't know anything about that. That's why I'm paying all his money.
Commissioner Martinez.
I guess I'll start out with, I think that we all are in understanding of what's happening here, and we respect and we totally understand. The only thing that I can do is try to use a timeline to allow us to make sure that if we allow it, it is within that year. And because of what the village has to do, from what I understand with getting the platting, the development, because you're gonna have to get all the utilities brought into the property before they start construction on it. You're gonna have to get a very, go ahead.
They're already there.
Okay, so and what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to work with a timeline, because in our desire over here is to make sure within a year it's going to be done, and you're gonna be a happy camper having Thanksgiving and Christmas in your home, which you're very deserving of. But I guess my question is, in timeline within the village, does the village feel that in what he's brought forward, that there is enough ongoing surveying, et cetera, that you guys feel comfortable that it is a process of just time? And then within that time, because the concept that I know in Albuquerque, building a home nowadays, is it gonna be a year? And that's more our concern with our variance that we're looking at approving or not approving for 1 year. So I'll go with you, and first question is, in the timeline that he's working within the survey, you've already seen what's happening, is that seeming to be within reason? Because if that's gonna take 6 months, the house ain't gonna be built in 6 months.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Martinez, from my understanding, the property is going to need a replat, but it would be an administrative replat because of the size, which means it doesn't come before the commission, doesn't come before Board of Trustees. My department has been able to turn those around in about 3 weeks, assuming that the documentation submitted to us is well done by the engineer. So first step is to replat. Second step is he would need to get a zone review permit through the village for the house itself. That's when we're checking setbacks, floor area ratio, permeability. That's a separate permitting process in which he would have to have architectural drawings and engineer drawings. And I don't know, I have seen some renderings of a home. I think they're included in the packet, but I don't know if those are engineered drawings or not. So that's going to be a question for Mr. Barber, is how far along is he in the process of the home design? And then after that, it's just a construction timeline, and I don't have an opinion on what his construction timeline will be or how quickly he will be able to get that done once us and Bernalillo County say yes to his designs.
With what she just defined, it sounds like, are you already at a point with your architectural planning, and you have an architect that is already getting that together while you're waiting for all this, where in what I'm defining as timeline, when you're approved with your survey, you're gonna be able to go into her with the architectural design to start going through the platting and approval for starting construction? Are you at that positive?
Yes, Commissioner.
Wonderful.
I mean, again, I can show you photographs.
No, I just, what I'm trying to do is I'm hoping to find comfort in a timeline. Because if all of a sudden a survey and they find problems with the survey, and all of a sudden the survey is gonna take 6 months. So I'm very comfortable in hearing what she had to say, and very comfortable in hearing what you had to say, and with that, I'll defer to anybody else.
Mr. Barber?
Bayless?
Yes, Commissioner.
If we imposed a condition on your variance that you connected up to utilities within a reasonable time, is that something you could live with?
I believe so. It would have to be temporary, Commissioner, in the fact that
Well,
it would just be
you have to bring the sewer line into the lot for the house. You gotta bring the water line into the lot for the house.
Understood.
You gotta bring the electric line into the house.
Understood.
And if we gave you, if I wanted to impose a condition that you got 4 months to get a building permit application in and utility connections, could you do that?
I believe so, Commissioner, and the reason why I can say that is because I already talked to an electrician, and he wanted $13,000 to put from the transformer to where I wanted it put. So I've talked to, you know, I got bits. No, I understand. I mean, it's building a house. I totally understand this.
Your electrician's just gonna put a power
Temp
pole
pole,
and a
right.
temporary meter for construction purposes.
Yes, sir.
You could plug your mobile home into that.
Yes, sir.
Your treadle trailer into that.
Yes, sir.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Bayless, I understand that condition. I think that's very reasonable, but I do think that's more appropriate for the conditional use request and not the variance.
Okay.
The variance is really about the dimensions,
All right.
and the conditional use, which is the next item on the agenda, is really about use of the mobile home. And so that would just be my request, that you do that in the next action, not this one.
Commissioner Chivington, do you have any questions of the applicant?
No, I do not.
Okay, are we ready to go on to input from the public? Wonderful. All right, so at this time, we'll accept comments from the public in support. Robin, you may need to pull the microphone down for her.
Yes, thank you very
Your
much.
name and address, please.
My name is Roselle Sanchez Denicky. And my address is 3113 Dallas Street Northeast. Zip is 87110. And I've prepared a small writing that I would like to share with you if you would like to have it. And I'll talk to you about it here at the podium.
Thank you.
Is that permissible?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You can go ahead and start.
Okay, I would like to begin by saying good evening, Chairman Homan and members of the Commission of the Village of Los Ranchos de Albuquerque. As I stated my name earlier, I'm the owner of the property located at, I have two lots, 7705 and 7707 Guadalupe Trail Northwest. And if I may, I would like to repeat a bit of background of our families and our history of the land. Our ancestors that have owned since the early 1800s. There have been at least 6 generations who have been born on or lived and still live on the land at present. My youngest sister has lived there most of her life, and so in the year 2007, my husband and I purchased the house and property for my cousins after the death of their mother, my aunt. And our intentions were to build our home on the property, commensurate with a beautiful land site on which it sits. We paid $25,000 to take down my aunt's adobe house, which was on that site. And that was quite a bit of money so that we could clear the land to build our own home. Unfortunately, well, I have to back up to 2007. Our neighbors to the north, Steve Garcia and his mother Mary, owned the land there to the north. And the son, Steve Garcia, wanted to build his home. And we got together, Steve and I supported him when he was coming before the commission to partition 1 acre behind his mother's house. Mary's house would have been left with a little bit less than 1 acre. But the commission was very favorable. I think there was only 1 abstention. And so Steve and I decided to pull down the electric pole that was sitting there providing electricity to my aunt's house and his property. And together we went in and we put in underground utilities.
The speaker's time has expired.
Continue. Go ahead.
So at a very great cost, and Steve and I shared the cost. The underground utilities were placed on my side of the property. So they're already there. The utilities are already there because we did plan to build our house. But unfortunately, medical issues ensued, and I had cancer requiring surgery and chemotherapy, then a second different kind of cancer requiring surgery and treatment at Mayo Clinic in Phoenix. And whom we believe to be recovered, both my husband and disabled older son were also diagnosed with cancer. And the years have gone on with serious medical problems. Last September, my husband passed away due to cancer. And 3 weeks later, my older disabled son passed away with multiple cancers. So at this time, my only surviving son is Robin, and we would like to build a house together for him and for me. I'm 86 years old with multiple medical problems requiring multiple medical assistance and appointments, which Robin has enabled me to make some of these appointments. And at this time, I have a caregiver that is taking care of part of the day. And that's been a very blessing. But I can assure you that I have the funds to build a house, 2,200 square feet. We just paid $4,000 to the surveyor, and the amount that it's going to cost to put the services into use in the house, the utilities, all the utilities. I'm doing all of that for my son and for myself. And so I would respectfully request the commissioners of the Village of Los Ranchos de Albuquerque to approve the conditional use requested. The trailer is small, it doesn't meet the requirements, but it takes up less space. The water is provided by my sister, and then he and a friend, they're very kind to do this, which is absolutely necessary, is remove all the wastewater that the one person uses, and take it to the proper disposal place. And so I respectfully request that the village approve both conditional use requests, because there are a lot of similarities, and I can't assure you that it would take 1 year, but I would hope it would take less. But I have the funds to pay for everything that's necessary, including the architectural drawings for the home, and I'd like for it to be a beautiful home because it sits on a beautiful site. It has a huge cottonwood tree that I remember my aunt just loved. And so I'd like for your approval to permit my son to live on the property while our home is under construction, so that I may live there and die where I was born, in my grandmother's 200-year-old house that my sister still lives in. And I thank you and my grateful appreciation to the commission.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay. All right, let's see, who else do we have on our list? Sandra Lynn. If you could give your name and address for the record, please.
I'm Sandra Lynn. I live in Placitas, and I'm Robin's friend, and I'm the one that comes down and I help him with his getting rid of all of the black water, gray water. And what else? I've been inside his trailer. It's plenty big enough for one person to live. Expecting somebody to have a 40-foot modular home before they build a house just seems totally ridiculous. You know, you need something you can move in there, get your house built, and then move it back out or use it for taking vacations and storing it there on the property. So there is no issue with, you know, water be drained out on the property or anything like that. And the utilities are right there. It's just a matter of moving the trailer to a different location and hooking them up. That's it.
Thank you. All right, is there anyone else out there that's wishing to speak? Please provide your name and address.
My name is Steve Garcia. I'm the neighbor to the north. I own all the property to the north of where Robin is at.
Your address?
And 7715 Guadalupe Trail. And I wanted to attest that, you know, in 2009, I did get together with Roselle. We sized it for 5 homes in there because there was multiple lots on both sides. So there's plenty for the utilities. There's no issues with the utilities whatsoever. We took down the overhead electrical poles. We put everything in there. So it's just a matter of him connecting up there. I've seen surveyor people walking in there already. I've seen him talking to some contractors. I'm comfortable that he's moving forward with the home getting built. I have no issues with the trailer that he's living in. He's been a good neighbor, and I fully support, you know, approval of his variance. So if he can go forward, move, and build his house there, that'd be fine. So, and like I said, my family's been there since 1929. They own the house in the front, and I lived there. So we're not coming in from out of state or wherever. We're people that have been here for over 100 years almost, okay? All right, so I just want to let you know that everything's there ready to go, and I do see them moving on it. So that's encouraging to me, okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this matter? Mr. Sanchez.
Vincent Sanchez, 6802 Rio Grande. In listening to this, I feel that there is a reasonable concern, excuse me, a reasonable concern that people wouldn't want an RV to be permanently placed on this property. And I feel that the current zoning laws for it seem to be impractical for this. But I do believe that a reasonable timeline set for this is a perfectly adequate way of dealing with this situation. And as long as everybody's in agreement with it, and I would be completely in support of this, and I think that it is a thing that should happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody wanting to speak in opposition? Okay, that closes the public input portion of this hearing. So, is there a motion, and then we'll open it up for discussion, further discussion?
I'm gonna move that we approve V 2603. And then, because I don't want Mr. Barber to have to buy a mobile home just to build a house.
Madam Chair, may I,
Subject to the conditions in the staff report.
well, couple comments about that. I think there are 13 findings in the staff report related to the variance. And I think with a motion of approval that you could keep 10 of them. They do support the request. There are 3 findings that are in opposition to the request, so you would need to cut those findings. But you're gonna have to draft a finding that says that he has demonstrated hardship to meet the variance criteria in the code. That's what I was unable to do in assessing this request. And so if you can add 1 finding to the record about hardship, delete the 3 that are in opposition to the request, then I think you create a clean record.
My motion would be to delete those 3 findings.
Okay.
And
approve the variance request.
The hardship for.
Hardship.
Hardship, yeah.
And he's
No,
demonstrated.
you have to demonstrate something for hardship.
Can we just find that those findings shouldn't be in the report? I don't know what to.
I'll go ahead
I
and.
think there's a sufficient hardship making him buy a mobile home for a year when he's already got a place to live that the neighbors apparently don't find too offensive. I think for purposes of the variance request, I think I'm willing to say that he has a hardship.
So you're asking for approval
Of the variance.
of the variance, removing the 3
Findings.
findings that did
That's
not
findings
support.
10, 11, and 12.
Yes.
Okay, 10, 11, and 12, and making a case for finding a hardship.
Yes. That's my motion.
For me to accurately draft those findings for the notice of decision, I just need to know what that text is going to read for the hardship finding.
That I believe it's a hardship to require the property owner or to have to purchase a second mobile home that can only be used for a year, moving it in and moving it out. I believe that's a hardship.
Madam Chair, I can use the recording to write that up. That's sufficient for my purposes of drafting the notice of decision.
I think removing the dimensions would be effective.
The key.
And making sure that it is a temporary, it's only to reside on the property on a temporary basis.
Madam Chair, we'll address the temporary nature in the conditional use findings, where there is a condition that says it's good for 1 year from the issuance of notice of decision. So you don't need a 1 year.
I may have some additional conditions I want on the conditional use, but for the variance, it's what we just said.
Okay. Is there a second so we can go into discussion?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Bayless and seconded by Commissioner Haywood. Okay. Discussion.
I think I'd like to kind of, because I know where you're going with the hookups, and I think that the situation as it stands right now, I don't think that there should be a burden for him having to worry about having to hook up financially in the direction he's going, where he's already demonstrated that his ability to remove the situation as it stands, and that's just our conversation, that I don't think that there's a necessary need for him or force the issue for him to have to hook up his unit before he starts construction as a,
Well, we're not at the conditional use
Okay.
yet. We're just at the variance.
Right. So, you know, I feel that the dimensions that are given in our ordinance are very arbitrary. I mean, that was the reason I asked the question about when was that put in place? And do we have any background on why those dimensions were chose? And as I said, I mean, I certainly see that we don't want somebody coming in with a tent or, heaven forbid, one of those little teardrop, you know, barely get one person in there.
are you talking homeless shelter?
There's got to be an intent to make progress on building the home. I think that is being demonstrated by the statements that are made and by a neighbor's confirmation. I think our ordinance in the future needs to be re-reviewed.
And I agree with you.
We have to act under what it is right now. So
I agree with you, and I think
understand
that Shannon is in conformance with the planning and zoning of understanding that all she can do is go by what's on the record at this point in time, but understands that working on creating a better and a more direct requirement is hopefully in the future.
Mr. Chappell, you were wanting to say something.
Madam Chair, there is a misconception in some ways because we mentally think of what a mobile home looks like, and we mentally think about what a recreational vehicle looks like. There have been other conditional uses approved for use of an RV, what you would call an RV, as long as it met the size requirements. My assumption from what I dealt with is because there are prohibitions in the ordinances about using an RV as a dwelling unit, is that the concern was that something less than 320 square feet should not be used as a dwelling unit, because there are several prohibitions on using RVs as dwelling units. It has nothing to do with the nature of the structure or anything of that nature. It is simply a size limitation. So my interpretation is that was put in there because the village made a decision that you could occupy as a dwelling a mobile home if it was this dimension. You could not occupy something as a dwelling that was less than that. So whether that's the right rationale or not, I don't know, but I think that is the basis for the ordinance.
Was that based upon permanent residency in that particular dwelling? One or the other, or did it take into consideration the temporary nature?
It uses temporary in several issues, and it was not a dwelling, but it goes so far as to say you can't occupy a recreational vehicle in a mobile home park even, but if you rent a space in a mobile home park, you can stay in the RV and it's deemed a transient use. So I don't know how that was all connected together, but I think that was the basis of the determination is what should be a livable dwelling size, and 320 square feet was the minimum.
We can't solve that problem tonight.
Yeah.
But we can solve his problem tonight.
I just wanted to explain because I know that everybody thinks a mobile home, it looks like this, and an RV looks like this. And the fact of the matter is RVs have been approved as conditional uses under the A1 zone for the same purpose, but they were just larger.
Thank you.
Commissioner Chittington, do you have anything to add to this discussion?
Not to add, but just ask a question. Seems like when I was reading some of the material about this, there was something about a 1-year limit on the process.
That's in the conditional use, which we haven't gotten to yet.
Oh, okay.
So let's vote on the variance.
Nothing? Okay, so let's call the question on the variance. We've got a motion before us to approve the use of the.
No, the variance, not the conditional use.
I know.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
We've got a motion before us to allow the use of the RV as a temporary dwelling. So that would be granting the variance, and that's specific to the RV at hand, although we could probably, never mind.
Chair Homan, the findings are pretty specific about the dimensions, so it's going to be related to this particular mobile home. I think the cleanest recollection of the motion is a motion to approve the variance based on the findings as amended into the record, which includes removal of the 3 and addition of the 1 that staff will prepare for the notice of decision.
And that's removal of conditions 10, 11, and 12, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the variance just goes to the size of the temporary residence.
All right. It's been moved and seconded. I know you made the motion. Who made the second?
I did.
Paul?
Oh, Commissioner Haywood. Great.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So this is a roll call vote. Commissioner Bayless.
Aye.
Commissioner Chivington.
Aye.
Commissioner Haywood.
Yes.
Commissioner Duran.
Yes.
Commissioner Martinez.
Yes.
And Commissioner Homan, yes. So you're over the first hurdle. So remind us quickly of the second.
Madam Chair, CU 26-01 is related to use of the mobile home as the temporary residence itself. Now that it has compliant dimensions, you can move forward with the use question. The code does allow for a mobile home to be used as a temporary dwelling for a period of no longer than 1 year while a primary and permanent dwelling is being constructed. Staff did find that the request was adequately justified per the conditional use criteria in the code, subject to the findings in the staff report and a couple of conditions that are very important to make sure that the proposed mobile home is going to be compliant with what the code requires. The first one relates to the expiration, that this conditional use shall expire upon the earliest of one of the following, and this language comes from the code. Either the issuance of a certificate of occupancy for the primary residence, that's one way it'll expire, discontinuance or abandonment of construction for more than 180 days. So if he starts his project and then stops it, he loses his conditional use, or 12 months from the date of the notice of decision approving the conditional use. So there's a couple of different triggers. There's a condition that says he has to come get building permits. There's a condition about the location of the mobile home. Right now it is showing as being in the side setback. So staff's gonna require that it be moved. It would probably be 3 to 5 feet that it needs to be moved to be out of the side setback per the drawings that were submitted. There will be a condition about no wastewater discharge, that sewage shall not be discharged onto the site unless it's hooked up to a permanent utility. And the applicant mentioned that he was not going to use generators, that he was going to use solar panels to keep noise and pollution down. And so there's a condition that the applicant shall use solar energy for power.
And that's for power for his?
For the mobile home, yeah.
Now, I don't have any more questions for Mr. Barber unless he wants to add something. But I would like to propose an additional condition on the conditional use, which is, we notify him at least in January, apparently, that he was in violation. Mr. Barber testified that he thought 4 months was a reasonable time to get connected to utilities. I think that may be a little optimistic on his part, having built my own house in this village. I know how long some of those things take, but I would like to impose an additional condition on the conditional use that at least domestic water and domestic waste disposal, domestic sewer, be connected to the temporary residents within 6 months of our decision. Or that notice, whatever.
The notice of decision.
That notice.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Bayless, that's very clear. I can add that as a condition.
Okay.
Why, but he doesn't,
He's good
the
with it.
code doesn't require that he has to.
Madam
It's
Chair,
a temporary thing, so why would we?
it's the commission's purview to add additional conditions of approval if they feel like it will further protect the health, safety, and welfare of the surrounding area. So while the minimum requirements must be met, it is fully within your right to impose additional requirements.
If it had been a true mobile home that was put in there, it would definitely have been connected to something, I would think.
No, mobile home's
And
different
my,
than
my,
manufactured
my
home.
rationale is fairly simple. If he has a year to build a house, the very first things he's normally gonna have to do are bring in a water line and a sewer line. Because the sewer goes in under the foundation when they start building. And so, there will be sewer on site, well within the time frame that I'm suggesting that he has to do. And it, you know, when I say connect up, he can run a disposal line from his temporary home over to where the sewer connection is, or stub out from the side. It shouldn't be expensive to do that. And since that's one of the first things he's gonna have to bring into the property to start the building, I don't think it's unreasonable to ask him to get that done. And to me, that's the biggest risk. Electricity, if he wants to use solar cells, good for him. There's already a condition that no generator be used, so those are the things, the only real things that concern me.
I mean, there is a condition prohibiting the discharge of wastewater on site. I don't know if there's been any reports of him discharging wastewater or black water already on site. It just seems like an unnecessary expense when he already has a condition that prohibits the discharge of wastewater on site. Just seems like an additional cost to him to do when the conditioner says he can't, you know. I know he will bring in the sewer, obviously, he's building a house, but, I mean, unless obviously you want to, yes, but.
Can I speak, Commissioners?
Give your name and address again, please.
Yes, Robin Barber, 7707 Guadalupe Trail. Until I can get the electrical, like you were talking about, Commissioner, temporary stub, the only way I run my microwave and my oven, my little cook oven, is off of a generator right now. So until I can get that temporary in, that's the only power I have. Because the distance from my aunt's house is, I don't know, 500, 700 feet. So there's no way I could run a cord from them if they would allow it, but the power drop would be extraordinary by the time I got to my trailer. So until I can get that done, and I believe I can do that quite quickly, I need to run a generator so that I can have some sort of power.
That was already in staff's.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Bayless, I created that condition based on the letter dated May 6th from Mr. Barber, in which he says, my intent is to install solar to provide electrical for the RV. This will eliminate the need for a generator. Currently, I've been hauling my liquid waste off-site to an RV dump site. There is a water meter close by for my water needs.
Is the, having a generator against our code?
Madam Chair, no, it is not.
Is your intent to, how soon is your plans to get this solar hooked up?
Okay, so I did the investigation on solar, Commissioners, and they wanted $22,000 to power the whole home. That was my intent. So, and then I came back to an electrician. He says, well, I want $13,000. So originally the intent was to put the house towards the back of the lot. And now I've moved it forward almost to the middle of the two lots when they're placed together after the survey. So he's gonna come back and give me a price to move it from where it was originally, I wanted it originally, closer towards the Guadalupe Trail as opposed to the the ditch.
You can get a temporary meter and a pole set near that transformer.
That's,
How far away is that?
Steve, how far do you think it would be from there to there?
It's probably at least 300 feet. It's a big lot. I mean, I have a full acre. We're up to
300 feet.
both lots are real large. They're very large. So it could be.
And the voltage, I did the calcs, the voltage drop for that big, you'd have to have a wire that big so that you wouldn't have the voltage drop.
Well, I know from personal experience, you can get a temporary meter for construction purposes set fairly quickly and fairly inexpensively. That's part of your, I don't know how.
Understood, Councilman, understood.
If I may ask a quick question of our director. Is there any problem with him moving the trailer closer to where the intended?
Madam Chair, as long as the trailer is out of the setbacks where it's currently located, that's going to be the only location restriction.
Okay.
I guess a couple of questions so that we can move on. I think the question being is that there is not a problem with the generator being used on site, number one.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Martinez, I wrote that condition of approval because his letter said that he was going to use solar energy and not a generator. And so that was the village's way of saying, you told us this is what you were gonna do, and so here's how we can regulate that. But what I'm hearing now is he does not have an intent to use solar power for the temporary dwelling unit. And so that should be stricken as a condition if that's the case and if that's what the commission is comfortable with.
And that's where I'm going to, is that I think the premonition that you're defining is that he hook up to electricity and sewer within 6 months is feasible in what he's saying, because it makes sense. Everything that you're saying is that for him to get started, they're gonna get these runs. So are you comfortable with allowing us to make the changes to allow him to actually continue with what he has existingly, and that he must, within the 6 months, hook up to both electricity and sewer?
I'm comfortable with that.
Okay, so then I guess what we need to do is back up and change the generator and pull that out and continue with your 6 month.
6 months to hook up to water, sewer, and power.
But I'm not comfortable with the 6 months.
Okay. So
I just think it's an unreasonable request.
Okay, this is discussion.
It's a
Help us.
temporary setup. He's
Help us.
getting a year to build a house. And if he doesn't have the house built in a year, the village goes and reviews a code violation because he's now living in a trailer instead of a house. We take his word that he's disposing of the waste off-site. So that's not an issue, which is what's prohibited in the code. And he's getting water. And if his neighbors don't mind the generator, I mean, because that's really the objection to a generator, right? It's noise pollution.
What do you
I just
consider?
think it's an unnecessary restriction to start forcing him to hook up a temporary structure to utilities whilst construction is going on. And in that case, I don't know how I would address objecting or saying no to the utility hookup requirement when I actually do support him living in a trailer. I'd have to say no, right?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Haywood, I think you would move approval, subject to findings 1 through 8 and subject to conditions 1 through 4. That would remove the condition about solar power. And you would see if that motion is successful without Commissioner Bayless's addition.
So then he has to rescind his motion. Or I vote no on his motion and then make my own motion.
I guess I would ask Mr. Chappell if what Commissioner Bayless did was a formal motion by opening up a discussion about adding an additional condition.
I haven't made a formal motion.
No,
Yeah.
there hasn't been one.
So whichever one of you wants to make your motion first, kind of gets first in line, I think, for the discussion on what would ultimately be the final
Before
approval.
we get there,
Let's
let's
say we're still
make sure we
discussing.
don't have somebody else that wants to address the group. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Garcia, are you interested in giving any additional comments? Okay. Ms. Denecki? Roselle, would you like to give any extra comment?
No, I think that every commissioner that's on the board has just been very, very agreeable, and I am so extremely grateful.
Okay.
Respectfully grateful. Thank you.
Is there anybody else in the audience that wishes to discuss and comment on this conditional use? Okay, now we can close the input. Well, before we do that, Darnell, is there anybody online? No. Sure. Come up and give us your name and address.
Sandra Lynn, I live in Placitas, 8 Martin Road. He's recently purchased another generator because the other one went on the fritz. And it's way quieter than the first one was. So I don't see how the generator would be a problem. Plus he puts it inside a old chicken coop and that deadens the sound. So I just want to put that out.
Thank you. Okay, so let's go ahead and close the input from the public on our hearing and continue with commissioners' discussion. To start this off, I need a motion.
I can't find staff report here, let me find it.
Okay, I'll make a motion
Go ahead.
that we approve, I'm sorry, I've lost the number, CU 2601, with all of the conditions except number 5. So number 5 be stricken,
And all of the findings.
and all of the findings.
So include the findings, but strike number 5. Is that correct?
Yes.
I second.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Haywood and seconded by Commissioner Duran. So, further discussion. Anybody? Commissioner Chivington, do you have any further discussion?
No.
Okay, then we'll call the question. Once again, this is a roll call vote. Commissioner Bayless,
I vote no.
Commissioner Chivington,
I lost the bubble there. Tell me again.
The motion on the floor, Commissioner Chivington, is for approval, subject to findings 1 through 8 and conditions 1 through 4.
Yes, aye.
you support?
Yes.
Commissioner Duran,
Yes.
Commissioner Haywood,
Yes.
Commissioner Martinez?
Yes.
And Commissioner Homan, yes. Let the record show that we do have a majority in favor. And so that is passed, and this hearing is closed. Okay, we expect big things going fast. All right. All right. So let's move on to our, you know what, let's take a 5-minute break, please. We're about to go back on record. If you can take your seats, please. Commissioner Martinez, can you come back? All right, let's go back on the record now. Please, can we take our seats and go back on the record? So the time is, looks like it's about 8:18, and we're back on the record. Okay, so we're going on now to item D, which was CU 2603. Lawrence Apodaca requests a conditional use for a guest house located at 8327 4th Street. The following apply to this item of business. The Planning and Zoning Department has deemed this matter to be quasi-judicial proceeding, which means that certain individual processes and protections are required. One of these protections ensures the adherence of due process, including but not limited to full disclosure at this time by any member of the commission of any real or potential conflict of interest associated with this matter or engagement in any ex parte communication regarding this item. Commissioner Bayless, do you have a conflict of interest? Have you engaged in any ex parte communication on this item? Please turn your microphone on. Can you repeat?
No and no.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Chivington, do you have a conflict of interest on this item?
I do not.
Have you engaged in any ex parte communication on this item?
I have not.
Commissioner Duran, do you have a conflict of interest in this matter?
No.
Have you engaged in any ex parte communication on this item?
No.
Commissioner Haywood, do you have a conflict of interest in this matter?
No.
Have you engaged in any ex parte communication regarding this item?
No.
Commissioner Martinez, do you have a conflict of interest on this matter?
No.
Have you engaged in any ex parte communication regarding this item?
No.
And I, Mary Homan, do not have a conflict of interest in this matter, and I have not engaged in any ex parte communication. So, Director Schultz, can we please have your planning report?
Madam Chair, thank you. This is a request for a guest house at the subject address. The applicant came into the department with what normally would have been considered a very simple interior remodel application request. When someone wants to add or remove walls within a structure, we have a very quick and easy kind of one-page application. This is a request related to adding a partition wall inside the existing residence, but during the review of the internal remodel request, it was discovered that there are 2 kitchens within the same structure, and anytime that you're adding another kitchen to a property in the village, the code considers that to be a guest house, whether it's detached as a separate unit, whether it's within the primary dwelling unit, or in this instance, whether it is eventually to be walled off to be separate and private. And so your consideration tonight is for an existing guest house that was kind of discovered through the applicant's application process. The proposed guest house area is about 405 square feet, well under the 1,000 square foot maximum. The staff report found that the request is justified per the criteria pursuant to findings 1 through 10, and staff would recommend approval.
All right. So let's start off hearing from the applicant. You can provide your name and address, please.
Yeah, my name is Lawrence Apodaca, and I live at 8327 4th Street, Northwest. So good evening. As I stated, my name is Lawrence Apodaca, and thank you for taking time to consider my application tonight. My family has deep roots in the village of Los Ranchos. This property has been in our family for generations. My grandfather originally owned the entire road and divided among his 5 children. Because of that history, this property and house represents much more than a piece of land or house remodel. It represents a family legacy and our commitment to this community. Our goal is simple: to preserve that legacy while making the property functional for future generations. We want to create a space that allows our family to live closer together, support one another, and remain part of the village we love. We believe multi-generational living reflects the values that have always made Los Ranchos special. We are not looking to change what makes this community special. We want to invest in it, remain here long-term, and continue carrying the property that has been in our family for decades. We believe our proposal supports the village vision of preserving, establishing residential neighborhoods while allowing families to remain together across generations. We hope you will see that this request is constant with those goals, and that it will allow our family to continue contributing positively to the community. Thank you for your time, and if you have any questions, I'll be willing to answer them.
Okay, anybody have any questions of the applicant?
You're not making the house any bigger.
No, so.
You're basically taking a big house and chopping it up into two smaller houses.
Correct.
All right,
Yeah.
that's all I had.
Okay. Commissioner Chivington, you have a question?
I do not.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone? If you can approach and please give your name and address.
Thank you. David Montoya at 8831 4th Street. And I just wonder why it's even in question, because 4th Street allows up to 16 units per acre, and that's maximum. And here it is, he's asking for something well short of that. So why is this even an issue? And I just wonder why we have a hearing on this, because I think it's great what they're doing. Thanks.
And the answer to that?
Madam Chair,
Once
the
again.
code allows for multiple units per acre, but it also requires a conditional use for a guest house. And if you look at the definitions in the code, I interpret this to be a guest house. So I agree that that doesn't make a lot of sense, but it is what the code says.
And so the code actually says you can't have a second kitchen.
The way that a guest house is defined is a kitchen facility with adequate cooking devices such as a range or something, and a sink to be able to wash hands.
Okay.
And so the second kitchen is what's triggering the guest house.
I find that interesting because I know up in the Heights, I know of many, many homes, especially in Sandia Heights and Glenwood Hills, that have a party area basically that would have a second small kitchen just for kind of the guest party area. So I just find this one so interesting that we've got something posed. Okay. Anybody else wishing to speak in favor? Anybody wishing to speak against? Okay, hearing and seeing none, we will close the input from the public on the hearing, and we will go on to commissioners' discussion, but first I need to hear a motion. Commissioner Martinez.
I make a motion to approve CU-26-03 in accordance to the findings of the zoning director.
The findings and the conditions.
Findings and conditions.
Is there a
I
second?
second.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Martinez and seconded by Commissioner Bayless. Is there any further discussion on this item? Commissioner Chivington, do you wish to mention anything?
No.
Okay, we will go ahead and call the question and have our roll call vote. Commissioner Bayless.
Aye.
Commissioner Chivington.
Aye.
Commissioner Dren.
Aye.
Commissioner Haywood.
Yes.
Commissioner Martinez.
Yes.
And Commissioner Homan, yes. So, thank you, and go forth and do your construction. You bet. Okay, now we go on to item E. TA 2602, a request by the Village of Los Ranchos to amend various sections of subsection 9.2 zoning and zone map related to acequia setbacks. And I think that's what most people are here for. So Director Schultz.
Madam Chair, thank you. This is a request from the village to remove a required 25-foot setback in all zoning districts when there is an acequia, an irrigation ditch, or a drain present. The first thing I'll mention is that Mayor Rial heard a lot about this item today and would make a request to the commission that you defer this item for 30 days to allow the public some more time to interact with the village on the intent and ultimately the final language associated with this request. We can and should still have a hearing on it and hear from the public, but if it's the will of the commission, that is a request from the mayor this evening. The justification provided in the staff report identifies a couple of issues. One, every zoning district in the village has base setbacks, ranging from 10 to 25 feet, depending on what your zoning district is. And that setback is extremely objectively measurable. There is a definition of a front setback, there's a definition of a side setback, and there's a definition of a rear setback in the definitions section of the code. The acequia setback is a little more ambiguous and less straightforward, especially across the zone districts. I will give an example. In the C1 zone district, it tells you that you measure from the bank of the ditch. From a land use and planning perspective, that is subjective, especially when the bank of a ditch can move.
Yes.
Setback should always be from property lines. And so part of the intention is to get rid of a provision that is hard to enforce and could become even harder to enforce over time as these ditch banks might move, with the understanding that the base setbacks will still be in place. The example I'll give is the A1 zone district. The A1 zone district has a 25-foot setback from the rear lot line. If there is an acequia in the rear of the property, the base setback is already going to cover and continue to cover that 25-foot separation between structures and the ditch. Where this becomes a little more finicky, which is the other half of the justification, is on some of the smaller lots in the village. There are lots that are zoned R2 and R3 that are sometimes less than 1/4 of an acre. When you impose a 25-foot setback on a lot that is that small, you do create undevelopable land. For the R2 zone district, for example, they have a rear setback, or I'll say a side setback of 10 feet. If the side of their property happens to be adjacent to a ditch, that suddenly becomes a 25-foot setback, and that can be extremely burdensome to accommodate if they can accommodate it at all. And so the logic was that the base zone district setbacks were sufficient enough to continue to protect the acequias in a way that makes sense, and that the kind of onerous and in some cases ambiguous provision does not serve the village. With that, I'll stand for any questions, and I'll just reiterate the request from the mayor that the commission not make a recommendation up to the Board of Trustees this evening.
Okay. Commissioner Bayless?
I'm aware of lots in the village where the acequia runs through the middle of a lot. Like all of those big properties on Rio Grande, where there's our 280-foot setback basically runs back to a ditch back there. If there wasn't some kind of setback from a ditch, a homeowner who owned one of those big lots could build a structure right on the ditch bank, as long as he was within the 280 feet, because it wouldn't be a side or a front or a rear setback. It'd be the middle of his lot. And over here in where I live, in Caballero Norte, there used to be some irrigation ditches that ran through the backside of the property. I think they've been buried and put in culverts now, but there may be a few places where it's still exposed, and it might make it difficult for some of those lots to be used, where the acequia runs through private property or through the middle of somebody's lot. So,
Madam Chair, Commissioner Bayless, that point is well taken, and I think the purpose of bringing this to a public discussion is to have an open conversation about if this provision is still important, maybe we can write it a little differently in a way that it could be more easily administered by the department long-term, but happy to have the policy discussion in whichever direction the commission and ultimately the Board of Trustees wants to go.
Commissioner Martinez.
I make a motion that we defer TA-26-02 for 30 days so we can get more public input and allow you guys to come back to us on a stronger basis.
Madam Chair, we should take public comment prior to a
Okay.
motion for deferral.
Yes. So hold on to that thought, please.
Okay.
All right.
I have a question for the director. For acequias, just going to your point, if there's an acequia that goes through a property, does MRGCD have specific like setbacks for an acequia that goes through a property that wouldn't be affected by front, side, or back setbacks?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Duran, I think someone from MRGCD is still here and would be better suited to answer that question. If MRGCD has a setback requirement, the village is not responsible for enforcing that. They do have to sign off on platting actions in which they can request easements, and so the village does have a little bit of teeth that way, but that would be a question better suited for them.
Let's go ahead and ask our representative if he would be willing to talk with us.
Good evening. My name is Casey Ish. I'm the Director of Lands and Conservation for the MRGCD. I oversee our right-of-way and licensing team as well as our bosque maintenance and on-farm conservation. So appreciate the opportunity to speak to you all tonight.
So
I guess you can just answer the question that I had. Are there minimum setbacks or I guess easements on acequias that go through property that normal village front, side, and back setbacks would not, I guess, overlap?
Madam Chair, Commissioners, the district in the process of being formed had various types of easements established for many of these facilities. Some are in fee simple, some are through easements of access. And so, yes, the short answer is all of our facilities that we have operation and maintenance agreements on have, we don't call them a setback, but we do have a dedicated easement for those facilities. And that's usually determined through center line of the facility. And while that ditch may move over time, the widths of those easements generally do not change.
Madam Chair, something Mr. Ish said brings up a good point, that the provisions cover different types of acequias in the village. For example, in the C1 zone district, the 25-foot setback is only applicable to MRGCD facilities, not any privately owned or operated ditches, but the provisions in the rest of the zone districts cover everything. And so there's also some inconsistency about what the village is trying to protect and which facilities it's trying to protect. So as you're thinking from a policy perspective, I would appreciate just some thought about is the intention that it's all ditches, whether it's completely managed and owned on private property where MRGCD is not a party to that, or not.
it's almost as though we need two different policies because it's going to be splitting hairs in some cases. Yeah.
Perhaps.
I know a parcel that we previously owned here in the village. When we purchased the property, matter of fact, it was 7324 and a half 4th Street, backs on to the ditch. Because the ditch had meandered through time, when we had the appraisal and surveying and everything done for selling it and buying it, whichever end it was, it probably on the buying end, it was discovered that the property itself, now the ditch was actually going into the property. And I know we worked with your department back then, and they rerouted part of that. So I know those instances do happen, but had we not been in a purchase-sell situation on that, we wouldn't have known it's just a general owner over time. So there's a lot of complications.
Yeah, Madam Chair, obviously these facilities have moved over time, not only as a consequence of being, something that's hand dug historically, but you have vegetation that grows around them, trees. Some people enjoy the trees, So they stay, and then over, 50, 60 years, the channel moves around those trees. I did bring comments today, and if it's appropriate, I could just read those in now if there's no more questions.
Yes, that would be fine.
The only question I have is, from your IMRGCD, is there a standard easement? We're dealing with the 25-foot easement over here. Is there a standard that you guys use?
Madam Chair, Commissioners, it really depends on the size of the facility. When we were created back in the late 20s, it was really decided upon by how much room we thought we needed to construct the facility and maintain that facility. So, for example, our drains often enjoy a much larger easement setback than some of our smaller acequias, which may only have, in some cases, 20 to 30 feet. It just depends on the facility.
So there's not a standard?
Not necessarily, no.
Thank you.
And when you're saying 20, 30 feet, is that from the center line of the acequia itself, or is it just the easement area you're talking about? The entire easement is 20 to 30 total, or describe?
There are
please.
there are sections of a acequia that may transition from having a 35-foot wide from center line down to a 30-foot wide. It just depends on how that easement was acquired through the process of either condemnation or purchase when the facilities were either taken over or actually constructed. So we typically measure from the center line of the facility. But again, some of our older acequias have moved back and forth over time, but we typically measure from the center line of the facility out.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Chair and members of the Commission, the Middle Rio Grande Conservancy District appreciates the opportunity to comment on the proposed amendments to the village's planning and zoning code related to acequia and drain setbacks. MRGCD staff is seeking clarification at this point regarding the intent of the proposed amendment. Based on our review of the staff report and conversations with the mayor, it is our understanding that the amendment is really intended to reduce setback requirements for private and community ditches while continuing to recognize recorded easements. However, the proposed language refers broadly to acequias, irrigation ditches, and drains, which is terminology that also encompasses many irrigation and drainage facilities which are owned, operated, or maintained by MRGCD under various operations and maintenance agreements. If the village's intent is to modify setback requirements only for private or community ditches that are not subject to MRGCD's operations and maintenance agreements, MRGCD respectfully requests that the ordinance be revised to clearly state that intent. Clarifying the language will help avoid unintended applications of the reduced setback to MRGCD facilities and eliminate uncertainty during future development reviews. Especially during extreme drought, when these ancient waterways are dry, it is critical for governing bodies such as this one to ensure we are all protecting these private and communal assets for when there is water to deliver. Additionally, if the amendment is intended to apply to private or community ditches, MRGCD respectfully requests that the ordinance include language recognizing that any reduction or modification of setbacks must remain consistent with NMSA 1978, Section 73-2-5. which protects access necessary for the operation and maintenance of acequias and community ditches. This clarification would help ensure that future development does not impair the ability of irrigators to access and maintain irrigation facilities as protected under state law. MRGCD appreciates the village's consideration and looks forward to working collaboratively to ensure the ordinance provides clarity while continuing to protect New Mexico's irrigation infrastructure. I'll stand for any other questions.
Any questions? Commissioner Chivington, do you have any questions?
I do not.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
So, Director Schultz, what would you say the percentage of our residential and business properties, any of our properties, that back onto or have access to an acequia?
Madam Chair, I don't have that data, but I could try to have that mapped and calculated before a next hearing.
Okay, I think that would be very helpful to know. Yeah, I'm thinking we're probably 25% of of the properties, maybe, 20, 25? I mean, I think it's a significant amount.
Yeah, I can make a note of that and see if our GIS person can work some data magic on that.
All right. Are there any comments from the public that would? Either way, let's do support first.
Madam Chair, you should have a sign-up sheet that is pretty full.
Ah, they were just out of order. So, yes, we do.
Do we need to move to make Mr. Benavidez's letter part of our record?
Madam Chair, staff did get his letter earlier today, and it has been added to the record.
Let's still continue with the 3 minutes. I know we may be here for a while.
Are we ready?
Please, yes, name and address.
Chair Holman, Commissioners, Robert Chavez, 324 Enchanted Valley Place Northwest, Village of Los Ranchos, former long-term resident of Chavez Road, of the Chavezes. I'm here to support the proposal to remove the special 25-foot setback and return to the standard setbacks for the various zones. The purpose of a setback should be to balance property rights with legitimate public interest and protections. In this case, the additional 25-foot setback does not provide any meaningful additional protections for acequias. Absolutely not, because primarily it's to the border or to your property line that the setback starts. The acequia bordering my property, this is a real case, and you're a Chamizal property owner, and so is Bob. The acequia bordering my property is the Chamizal. It's already protected by an existing 33-foot easement and right-of-way. 33 foot on this property is protected by MRGCD's easement already. My property line is on the west side of this acequia, okay, on the west side of this acequia. And if we were to take the code as it is, from my property line, I have to give 25 feet of setback, 10 feet more than the standard attributed to everybody else that doesn't border an acequia, which is 15 feet. The easement exists to provide access for trail use, maintenance, repairs, and operation of the ditch. Keeping structures outside of this easement already preserves the acequia's function and allows MRGCD to perform its responsibilities. Adding another 25-foot setback beyond that protected corridor and a setback that is within my property does not improve maintenance, access, or better protect the acequia. Instead, it places an unnecessary burden on a small number of property owners whose land happens to border the acequia. Those property owners lose the use of a significant portion of their land, while neighboring property owners who not border the acequia remain subject only to the village standard 15-foot setback for these R3 properties that I'm on. In my case, the back property line, I have 230 feet of property line that borders the acequia. With the additional 10 feet that is required by the existing code, I have 10% of my land that is not usable for just the additional 10 feet, 10% of my half acre. I don't think the difference is not equitable for me. Property owners should be treated consistently as possible unless there is a clear, demonstrable public benefit. I have not seen evidence that this additional setback provides such a benefit. Returning to the standard 15-foot setback would still respect the existing 30-foot easement, continue to protect the acequia, and restore fairness by applying the village standard setback requirements more uniformly. to all property owners. And I appreciate you guys and the village willing to take up this matter. There are, however, conditions that are pretty sensitive. And there is times when you do have the acequias that cross into private property. The state statutes have been built based on these long-term problems, and they generally cover, and they do a good job of covering those rights by stakeholders in those acequias. Generally, the state law says that if you have a private acequia, all the stakeholders have to have reasonable access. They have to have reasonable property to maintain and clean the acequia. And so they're well protected by state law currently. So I think we appreciate the opportunity to speak to you guys tonight and for the village to take up this issue. And I think I do agree that from the mayor's perspective, that maybe a little more public input is needed for some of the more difficult situations that are presented by some of the rights that the, especially the private acequias have. Okay? Thank you.
Jordine?
Gordine McKenzie, 7315 Guadalupe Trail, Northwest. Reading over the proposal, one of the things that I thought that someone has already brought up is we really need a map, not only of our ditches, but we need a map to better understand the impact of what the proposal could create and what changes there might be. In terms of the justification for the 25 feet, you do invoke some of the things from the master plan, but some of them are invoked in a manner that doesn't really support some of the master plan vision statement. I mean, the ditches are a very important part of the village. As you accurately say in the vision statement, you know, it's talking about the historical and the agricultural aspect of the ditches, and that the ditches in the village form also create the look and the felt use of the village and how people basically perceive a place. And one of the things that we've talked about is if this 25 foot is enacted, what effect is it going to have? There are still people going on the ditches, some of my neighbors, that are picking up shards of pottery in terms of some of the historical aspect. If we take away the 25 feet, does that mean then people can develop? And if they develop, how does that impact the use of the ditches, the uses for walking, the uses for equestrian activity, the uses for supporting wildlife, and bicycles that go along the ditches? In the section of the master plan on the ditches, under policy C, action steps, bullet number 5, it says to coordinate with appropriate agencies and landowners to preserve the open and accessible nature of the ditches. And that is repeated throughout. In the proposal, one of the arguments is that it will strengthen and promote the health and welfare of the community, but the justification didn't actually support it. I'm reading from number 8 on page 137. The proposed amendment supports the public health, safety, and general welfare. The amendment simplifies and clarifies the zoning code, reduces unnecessary regulatory conflict, and then it continues. But it's just clarifying and simplifying, promoting public health, safety, and general welfare. And I don't know if you could answer, Shanna. I had a question, and you mentioned that this is the plan of other jurisdictions. Could you mention some of those jurisdictions that have already taken away the 25-foot setback?
Madam Chair, do you want me to answer that?
Please.
The statement in the staff report was there are not other jurisdictions that have an acequia setback, which is true. Corrales does not, and Bernalillo County does not.
So they never had one? It wasn't taking
Madam Chair, I'm not
changing it?
familiar with their codes over the course of history. I'm familiar with what they have in place today.
As a historian, I think one of the things that struck me was because it is mentioned so much, and I went carefully over the master plan with a fine-tooth comb, there must be a reason for inclusion in the master plan. And I don't know, maybe you know, what is the historical reasoning behind that? That was another question I had, in terms of the proposal.
So,
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Perhaps you can take a look into that.
Madam Chair, sure, I can try to find any legislative intent. These provisions were added to the master plan long before I was here at the village, but there might be some historical documentation that can be found.
Thank you. Dr. Gutzler.
Hello, excuse me. David Gutzler, 620 El Paraíso Northwest, here in the village. I'm amending the comments I so carefully prepared because a lot of the discussion that's taken place has enlightened me about what is going on with this proposal. As written, I was very confused. It was so terse and so little justification was given. It seemed like a solution in search of a problem, with contradictory statements about, promoting the glorious acequias when it seemed quite clear that as written, this proposal would do exactly the opposite. I'm happy to hear that there may be some clarification forthcoming, so I will spare you the learned comments I was going to make about the glories of acequias. But I think we need to be careful with this, and there just seems to be so much confusion about what this setback really means, when it really applies. I share the confusion expressed by Mr. Ish from MRGCD about what the impact this would be on the various categories of ditches and drains and ditch banks. It just needs a lot more work before any permanent changes are made to the village code, and this you have to do better than this so that we know what's happening. And I strongly advocate the deferral that I think has already been proposed, but maybe inappropriately before discussion. And I look forward to something that's more completely written and justified so that I don't get so angry about what seems to be happening here. So I'll leave it at that. But thank you very much for
Thank you.
all your time and the work you're putting into this.
Thank you. Olga Sanchez.
I'm Olga Sanchez from 1130 Green Valley Road, and I sympathize with the gentleman on Chavez Road. It does seem unreasonable to, but there are different situations, and our situation with the Pueblo Lato is a mess. And we have neighbors that had combined two tiny pieces of property and made the acequia a mess. So tiny properties that are connected and a big home still do not observe any kind of setback on the acequia. So I oppose TA 20-26-2, deletion of the 25-foot acequia setback. I strongly oppose removing the 25-foot setback from acequias. This change prioritizes dense development over the preservation of functionality of our historic irrigation systems. As living systems, acequias are not merely symbolic or ideological. They are engineered water conveyance systems requiring physical maintenance of bank edges for water to flow effectively. Banks erode seasonally from gopher activity, needing regular attention. Adequate width is essential for maintenance equipment, and in his case, it's got too much distance, but in our case, there's very little chance for maintenance equipment to move up and down. I have personally used a gas-powered tamper to repair leaks in our family's Pueblo Lato acequia access to compress the gopher holes to stop it from leaking. Adequate width is essential for maintenance equipment. Year-round cooperation among users is required. Development too close constrains this. Will new residents contribute or accept acequia maintenance or view it as a landscape feature or a dumping ground? We've had this problem. Developers prioritizing large homes on gravel yards are unlikely to support the cooperative traditions central to acequia culture. How does squeezing development closer align with the 2035 Master Plan's ditches goal to preserve and enhance the ditch irrigation system? What are the MRGCT's specific requirements for access and buffers to enhance this irrigation system? Deleting the setback does not benefit acequia users or the shared cultural heritage. It encourages dense development at the expense of practical functionality and community stewardship. I urge rejection to this amendment to protect our acequias.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Pamela Craig. Please provide your name and address.
Pamela Craig, 505 Calle del Pajarito, Los Ranchos. My husband was Joe Craig, our last elected mayor, and he ran on the platform of preserving and protecting the village's cultural heritage and its natural rural nature. He felt strongly that the acequias were vital to both. He was unable to fulfill his term due to sudden illness and death, but I know he would have been very, very concerned about the changes proposed. I know it's a very complicated matter, and I think we need a lot more information, and I think a map is a great idea so we can see exactly, what ditches are private and what ditches are MRGC. The people wishing to walk the acequias and enjoy nature and the beauty of our village should not be restricted access. And the acequias are part of our cultural and our rural history, and they really must be preserved and protected. Thank you.
David?
Thank you. David Montoya, 8831 4th Street, Northwest. First of all, I want to thank the board for the work you do. And this is really nice for you to, give all your time like you have. But as to this proposal, it's not a good idea. And I don't think you've got to look at it, what are going to be the long-term problems that could come up with this. And I could take anybody that wants to. I can take you around the village and see how many acequias have been closed by private landowners. And I live next to an acequia, just like my friend Roberto. And I look at it as a benefit that I live along an acequia. Yes, I have to keep 25 feet away from it for any structure. But I look at it as a benefit, and I want to preserve it, not just for me. I'm 73 years old. I'm thinking about my grandkids. Are they going to have acequias that they can use? And look how important it is to our village. We put it in our logo, what the water means to us. And do we really want to be like the surrounding communities? No offense, but I don't. I don't want to be like Los Lunas. Go to Los Lunas. I have a lot of family there. They can't walk along the acequias. They're closed everywhere. They don't protect them. And Corrales, same problem. It's just happening all over. And so I don't really want to be like our neighbors in Bernalillo County. They have some of the same problems, but I'm not aware of them so much. And so I don't, no offense at all, but I don't want to be like them. I want them to follow our way of life, and I want to protect those. And if anybody wants to, I can take you to acequias right around us that have been closed off to the public. And actually, there's one right behind the village on a 200-year-old acequia that's closed to the public. And I used to run down that ditch and got tired of cutting the wires that the neighbors put on that you can't use our Pueblo acequia that's over 200 years old. Wow. So I don't want to take any more of your time, but I really appreciate the fact that we're going to take more time to look at this. But one thing I would like to clarify is where that 25 feet is measured from, because I think there's probably a way that we can compromise, because I love compromise in our community. I don't like division. So I think we can, but we need to clarify where that 20 feet is measured. But my time's run out. Thank you.
Thank you. Vincent Sanchez.
Vincent Sanchez, 6802 Rio Grande. I think there's a little bit of a confusion about the idea of where the setback and what it involves is related to, because the setback to structures, and there has to be a fence in there someplace, which is also a restrictive component of this. Also, I have not found in the village code anywhere where it specifies something different between private and MRGCD. In fact, the language is quite consistently starting with, for any property bounded by an irrigation ditch or drain. And then it continues on. I'll start with what I plan to say. Master plan and code states the importance of preserving agricultural character. This reduction of acequia setback by at least 60% by side, allowing structures to be significantly closer, shrinking buffers intended as protection, removing the dedicated buffer does not preserve the character, it erodes it. Acequias are not modern conveniences. They are living heritage requiring physical space and maintenance, access, and safety. I have documented Pueblo lateral water use on my lands going back to 1779. The master plan calls all historic ditch systems a core element of semi-rural identity. The action steps state, in order to create and maintain a cohesive village form in public and private development to maintain a rural atmosphere, enforce setback requirements, maintain openness between structures, preserve traditional lot patterns, and maintain low density. Increasing structural density and access difficulty while decreasing maintenance space will not improve safety as stated. Narrowing easements and increasing density is what previous generations of commissioners sought to prevent. The rigidity claim only pertains to parcels abutting acequias. Ignoring that difference is not inconsistent or a regulatory conflict. This is comparing two parcels with different attributes. Trying to make this consistent is to make apples and oranges consistent. Existing narrow parcels already have coded language. Section 9.2.7, Preservation of Open Space and Vistas, number 5, says, for narrow, less than 60 feet wide TRIPA or unusual shaped lots, one side yard setback may be reduced to less than 10 feet, providing it meets sections conditions. Other irregular lots would be subjected to pre-construction variances, the other existing regulatory control. Finally, reducing the setback specifications when the starting point is unidentified is the inconsistent part. The problem is further compounded by the lack of starting point for walls and fences, which further encroaches on the acequia easement, dividing the setback even more. This is omitted and crucial, something I can't explain within the time constraint. The term semi-rural is often used, but this change would remove rural of semi-rural and just make it semi-Albuquerque, something that I don't want. Did I hear correctly? We are stuck with the rules we have, yet this amendment is literally asking to change the rules that have been violated and that I have been asking for action on for more than 2 years. This change would circumvent enforcement responsibilities of the village that directly affect my family's lands. I do sympathize with Mr. Chavez. I believe in his condition, his is the inverse of mine. He has too much lands taken in this, and my access has been restricted, and I have too little.
Thank you. Mr. Benavides.
Commissioners, hi, I'm Gil Benavides, 7018 Guadalupe Trail. Let me read the part of the letters to keep things moving. So I support the request by the Village of Los Ranchos to amend various sections of 9.2 zoning and zone map related to acequia setbacks, TA 26-02. I have personally experienced the overly restrictive setback requirement in this ordinance. We own several parcels, but the one parcel I'm talking about is our property borders an MRGCD acequia on the east, a private communal ditch on the north, and another private communal ditch on the south. So this parcel is like approximately 600 feet by 120. So that means 40% of that property I can't put anything on. And so I am trying to dedicate, I'm setting it up for farming. So guess what? This is forcing me to put any kind of tool sheds or barns right in the middle of the field where I want to be able to get a tractor, and I don't want to have to navigate around different things. So basically, this is anti-farming, anti-agriculture, and I think the village residents really want to be pro-agriculture. And this does completely the opposite. So some ditches are private, and which is what I have on two sides. And nobody's talking about encroaching on the MRGCD easement. If fences are being thrown across where they shouldn't be, whether there's amendment or not, that's still a problem, and that should be addressed. So I am in favor of this amendment, and I think it is pro-agriculture. And if you want to protect the acequias, we should do all that we can to support agriculture and the irrigators, because that is what protects the acequias, not the setbacks. The setbacks to the property line are already plenty sufficient. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Nancy Nangeroni, 7315 Guadalupe Trail. Oh, with all due respect to the work that has gone into this proposal, I'm here to speak against it. When Gordine and I moved to Los Ranchos 10 years ago, we thought, what a beautiful place. We would really like to live there, and fortunately, we found a home that we could afford on the lower end of the Los Ranchos scale. But one of the big things that appealed to us about Los Ranchos was the acequias. What a great place to go for a walk, to get some exercise, to get some fresh air, and to enjoy the beauty of nature. Now, this proposal would eliminate the 25-foot setback. Now, I don't know the specifics, I'll be honest, of the various properties and how all the effects would be, and I don't think anybody does. I think there will be unintended consequences from something like this, just as there have been before when the zoning was approved in the village center, and later someone said, never imagined they would build 3 stories all the way to that setback from the street. Well, guess what? They did. And something like that could happen again with this. I'm president of the Friends of Los Ranchos, and I represent a membership of a couple hundred people. And that membership decided to make one of 2 missions, 2 primary missions of Friends of Los Ranchos to preserve the acequias, to stand up for the acequias. And so that's why I'm here, that's why I'm speaking. What makes the acequias beautiful is the nature on both sides of it. And if you reduce the setback, you're gonna take away some of that nature. And guess what, you know, with all respect for the private property owners, couple of things. Number one, you can do something with property besides build on it. You can plant a garden. You can plant grapes. You can do all kinds of things with property besides build on it. And the other thing is, if we take away this setback, we're taking away something from the public here in Los Ranchos. The public enjoys the acequias, not just the public, but visitors. When we have visitors come to town, we take them out onto the acequias for walks. And they're like, oh my God, this is so incredible. This is wonderful. The acequias could, should, and are a major attraction for our village. The fact that you can walk the acequias. It's a beautiful walk in the park in a beautiful nature spot. You see all kinds of animals, domesticated for the most part, but you see llamas and lambs and turkeys and chicken, just all kinds of things. So I just can't, I had a visceral reaction when I heard about this plan to take away that setback. It seems to me we would be shooting ourselves in the foot if we do that. Now, I sympathize with the need to improve our ordinances. Certainly, measuring from center lines and things like that needs to happen, no question. There's lots of room for improvement, but let's not shoot ourselves in the foot while we're doing it. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, so we certainly, come on.
Teresa Rayo, 1005 El Alhambra. So if you defer this, I would like to request that you put it first thing on the agenda next time, because we've been here for over 3 hours. And so I would just like to ask you to do that. Mary, or Chair Homan, if you make the agenda
consider that.
We'll take that request.
Okay, the other thing is, I grew up here in 1962. The Griegos lateral ran through the park, under Rio Grande, on the west side of Rio Grande. This acequia was not here. It runs through our property. Things got rerouted. And so we have had vandalism on our ditch, at our house, with things taken, people in our property, blah, blah, blah. We did put a fence up. So I think there is some history, and I don't know if MRGCD has maps from way back when that got rerouted and how now it goes through private property. So I don't think any of you would want people in your backyards when it's your private property. And I love the acequias, and I walk on them. But, I mean, there's so many variables here. So anyway, that's all I want to say. But put it on the agenda first thing.
And I agree, there's not a one-size-fits-all.
What was that?
I said, I agree with you, there's not a one-size-fits-all. We've got so many different situations.
Oh.
All right.
Thank you very much, Commissioners and Chairman, for having me. My name is Linda Garcia, and you'll see why I emphasize that. I'm Linda Garcia Benavides. I am Gil's wife. I have been a resident of Los Ranchos for over 65 years. It's my family that has done all of this acequia, the ditching, the farming, the Garcias, the Martinezes, which I know Dave Montoya would know. So I've been around this for a while. These acequias have been around here for generations. And so you want to talk about the heart, the love of acequias. I can tell you, not only do I have that, and quite honestly, I tease Gilbert that he married me so he could move down here to Los Ranchos. Of course, that was 45 years ago, but you know, we have all these people here that talk about that they know their history, that they're historians because they've been here a couple years, 4 years, 10 years. They do not know the history of Los Ranchos. I do. And when you talk about how it would affect this, yes, there's no one set thing that's going to fit. But I do oppose this 25-foot because if you look at the history of the acequias, you look at what's happened, you look at what the unintended consequences could occur, this would be a very bad idea to enforce this 25-foot. You know, they talked about, a comment was made about this palindrome, even everybody who doesn't want to admit this palindrome of what went through. All I'm going to say, if you look at the people that were on planning and zoning that approved this palindrome, this master plan, this approval of the village, you're going to find that they're ones that were not only running for mayor, became mayor, were part of P&Z. The history's there, so I'm not saying anything that can't be proved. You know, the other comment that was made, hey, we feel sorry for people that may have this, but quit building a building. You know, you should have a garden and so forth. What Gilbert's referring to is we do have a big lot in the very back. We could easily build 2 or 3 homes back there. But our intent is not to do that. What's important for us is our agriculture, is the farming, and that's what we treasure the most here in Los Ranchos. We do have a vineyard, we do have a garden, and our intent is to get this land in the back, to do farming, to do agriculture, to lend it out to people. No one knows more about this farming, agriculture, nature, and I might be a little bit biased as then Gilbert. You know, we have been dealing with these families from Los Ranchos for a very long time, so we know what they're dealing. So my last point would be the public enjoys the acequia. They do enjoy them. I don't really appreciate a lot of these conspiracy theories about what's going to happen if we get rid of the acequias. There's nothing more that this village honors. And again, we are doing what we're doing for agricultural. That's the strong point for farming. not building. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chairman Homan and Commissioners. Thank you for allowing me to speak on this issue. My name's Tom Donnellan, and I reside at 6668 Edgewood Drive, Northwest. My concern, which has been addressed by both Commissioner Martinez and Mayor Real's request for more time, this is a very simplistic answer to a very complex problem that hasn't been looked at and hasn't been studied. And it deserves more time to understand what is meant by this. One of the things is knowing where, my understanding from things that I've heard about the easements and the right-of-way that MRGCD owns or controls is that there's a great variety of how that works. There's some where they just have a right-of-way, and the property line goes to the center of the ditch. There are others in which they own the easement and own land on either side that gives the protection that the 25-foot setback is trying to do. So that when you add 25 feet to a 30-foot setback already, you're actually talking about a 55-foot setback from the center line of the ditch. That seems excessive. And at the same time, the piece is, we do want to preserve the nature of the acequias. I want it to be tree-lined and looking and being this wonderful thing, but we don't know whether this is, the setback even has any effect on that if the tree line that is already included in the easement of what's there. So it takes much more information, much more study than what's been proposed here today and what's been presented. I think, some of the people that are worried about, giving up the 25-foot setback, we're going to lose the ditch banks. I don't think that's at all going to happen, but we don't have that information being presented to us to be able to know that. And that's where a lot of this is just going off the rails because we don't have good information. Good information was not brought to us with this proposal. It's just let's just get rid of it. And we don't really know what the consequences of it are. So I would urge you to defer and get better information and to understand the complexities of this so that you know where does this work, where doesn't it work? Do you want to include actually private ditches that are being maintained by the private landowners? Do we really have a right to say much about what's happened with those as opposed to what's controlled by the MRGCD? So I think there's lots of things to be sorted through and looked at. And then one of the other things that I'd really like to urge be considered is allowing for a certain amount of, say, that you can have close to the border of within the setback, an outbuilding of 10 by 12 feet. That would allow, beyond that, you have to, you can't build a big house next to it, but you could have a utility building that's useful and that allows your land to be more useful than having it being on that's a consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? I'm looking through this crowd. I see two individuals that haven't spoken yet. Let's not go there, please. All right. Anything from our last two individuals back on the back row that haven't spoke? Mm-hmm. All right. Gotcha. Okay, so with that, we'll stop for this evening, the input from the audience. And I think we've got a motion if you want to re-speak.
First, I apologize for putting the cart in front of the horse, but I think that what has been exposed here is a good idea from the mayor, and I think that balance is critical, and I think that we've talked about a lot of people speaking tonight, and I think all these people will be able to be an asset to figure it out and to put it in perspective and to put it for a place where everybody can win off of this. So I will resubmit. I make a motion to defer this for 30 days so that we can get input and bring it back to our planning and zoning
For the August meeting.
for the August meeting.
Okay, is there a second?
From the passion that everybody has exhibited tonight, it's clear that we need more time, we need more input. There's good arguments made on both sides, and we welcome you all back next time if you have new things to say. But I want to try and remind everybody that the proposal will probably be changed, I'm guessing, but the proposal has to do with setbacks. It doesn't have to do with blocking off a ditch. It has nothing to do with whether you can run up and down the ditch or a fence across the ditch. It doesn't have anything to do with whether you can see into the neighbor's setback, because he can build an 8-foot fence and you wouldn't be able to see the chicks and the ducks and the geese. So please focus your attention on what's at stake, which is what can a property owner do with his or her property inside their property line. That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about restricting access to ditches. We're not talking about taking away your view. We're talking about a setback, which is a very limited legal issue. And hopefully you will limit your comments to the issue of the setback, not to how important the ditches are to Los Ranchos, because we all agree on that. Nobody here doesn't think they're important. What we're talking about is the use of private property on the other side of the property line. So please limit yourself to that.
All right? All right.
Was there a second?
So is there a second?
I'll second.
A second.
Okay.
Maybe Claire already did.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Martinez, seconded by several other commissioners, Haywood and Bayless. Roll call vote. Commissioner Bayless. Commissioner Chivington.
Yes.
Commissioner Duran.
Yes.
Commissioner Martinez.
Yes.
Commissioner Haywood.
Yes.
And Commissioner Homan, yes. So this motion carries unanimously. We'll go on to our last item. Are we going to have anybody enter? Okay. This item, let's see, where did this thing begin? Yep, we've got one more to go, folks. Okay, if we can quiet down a little bit, please. So we're on to our final item today, which is TA 2603. It's a request by the Village of Los Ranchos to amend subsection 9.2 zoning and zone map related to child care facilities. Director Schultz.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, thank you. This is TA-26-03, a hopefully less controversial text amendment to the zoning code related to child care facilities. At the New Mexico State Legislature this year, they preempted all jurisdictions in the state related to how those jurisdictions can regulate child daycare facilities. My understanding is this was in response to the Free Child Care Act, that if we're going to offer free child care in this state, then zoning cannot be restrictive on where child care facilities can go. And so the state passed a law that essentially did three things. It said child care facilities cannot require any discretionary approval in any zone district. In the village today, for example, along 4th Street in the C1 zone district, they require a conditional use permit. That would not be compliant with state law if we left it that way. The other piece of state law that we need to be compliant with relates to parking. They also implemented some very specific parking requirements that we have to adopt lest we be non-compliant with state law. So the proposal before you this evening does I'll say three things. One, makes childcare facilities permissive in every zone district in the village as required by state law. In the commercial zone districts, it implements a new parking standard, which was called out specifically in state law, that says the only thing we can require for parking is 1 loading space per 10 children of the facility's licensed capacity. We can't require any additional parking beyond that. And in the residential zone districts, we are not permitted to require more parking than what a normal residential dwelling would require. And so the code will now specify that for a childcare facility in the A1 zone district, for example, that they would have to provide 1 parking space per each bedroom in the home, but no less than 2 spaces per dwelling unit, which is the parking standard for a single-family residential home. These changes went into effect on July 1st, so we are a little behind in updating our code, but I think the bottom line is we don't really have a choice in these changes. We have to be compliant with state law. With that, I'll stand for any questions.
Any questions of the director?
If we don't have any choice, how can we have any questions?
Madam Chair,
Well,
Commissioner, yeah, good
clarifications on-
question. I guess you could say, do we have to? And I would say, yes, we do.
Okay. Any discussion, or we make a motion?
I'll move that we approve TA 2603, subject to the findings in the staff report.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Bayless, I'd like to confirm that that motion is a recommendation of approval up to the Board of Trustees.
We recommend the trustees,
Approve.
I move that we recommend approval of TA 2603 with the findings.
Is there a second?
I second.
So it's been moved by Commissioner Bayless and seconded by Commissioner Duran. This is a roll call vote. Commissioner Bayless?
Yes.
Commissioner Chivington?
Yes.
Commissioner Duran?
Yes.
Commissioner Haywood?
Yes.
Commissioner Martinez?
Yes.
And Commissioner Homan, yes. Let the record show that we have passed this unanimously. And I don't see, we have no old business, no new business. And so before we adjourn, I just want to thank everybody that was here to participate and our last remaining individual. Thank you, thank you. So is there a motion to adjourn?
I motion we adjourn.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded, and we are adjourning at, looks like 9:34. Good night, everybody.